Hello and good morning. Happy Friday, everyone. We finally hit Friday in a couple hours. Most of us are going to be getting off of work, or if you're in another part of the world, you're already off of work and you're starting to enjoy your weekend. I have an incredible weekend planned with the missus. Today, we're finally setting up our new OLED that I got on Tuesday. It's just been too much of a busy week, so we're going to finally set it up. I can't wait to see what this bells and whistles. I never had an OLED. I have a QLED is the best I've ever had. So talking with Paris Lilly, he says that once you go OLED, you don't go back. I cannot wait to tell you about my experience with it. I'm going to try out the Xbox Hub. I'm going to hook up a wireless controller to see if it's seamless, as Danny Benya said from Gamertag Radio when he was checking it out. I'm also going to be checking out GeForce Now on Paris Lilly's. He told me you should definitely try Starfield on it, so that's what I'm going to do. But folks, we're here. We have three really fun, very, very bombastic, opinionated topics. One of which is going to be the Xbox tax once again. And I say, you're not gonna hear from me. I've already said my piece on how I feel the gaming media just does not want to give Xbox their flowers. Fine. But there are people here that have not talked about it. That being one of our special guests here, and that is Silent Cypher making his return debut. One of the best voices in the business. How you doing, Silent?
I'm good. I'm good, man. Thank you for having me back. I thought I was gone long enough that maybe you realize, like, hey, Fridays aren't too bad if we don't have that grouchy old man with us. But I'm glad that the door was still open and I was able
It's
to.
always open, brother. You have a permanent seat here. You just show up. That's the way it works.
I appreciate it. Yeah, no, I'm just excited to be able to hang out with you guys. I'm excited that it's the weekend. I need some more sleep. I need some more gaming time, and yeah, I'm super stoked to be hanging out with you guys again. It's great to see you all again. I look forward to getting into it. It's gonna be an interesting conversation, I think.
Yeah, I do. I do it. I think it's going to be a very interesting conversation and one that's going to be very pointed. Like I said, I don't think we're going to go on rants. I think that we can have a conversation. I think what annoys me more than anything is the fact that when you try to have these conversations, and I don't mean like you're kicking garbage cans over or you're throwing controllers because your favorite game didn't get into the Game Awards. That's not what this is about. The Game Awards is what it's always going to be until change happens. And change is not going to happen, folks, until until more people start talking about it. See, I said this in the green room, and I'll say it to you folks now. You know my personality. I love everybody, but I'm not to sit by the sideline and allow things to happen and not have a voice and not say anything. I'm a part of the industry. I may not be a professional journalist, but I'm still a content creator. I take this shit incredibly serious. I put a significant amount of work. You know it. And I don't have to tell you that I do. So I take this serious and I think that I do have a voice and I can have an opinion when I see things are not going according to Hoyle. And that is what's happening right now. Now, again, I'm not going to go on a rant about the Game Awards. Listen, like I said, Jeff Keighley runs his thing how he runs it. Someone needs to step up and challenge that. Someone needs to, come up with a Game Awards that has actual categories that make sense, that people want to hear it. And until that happens, well, Xbox is going to have the asterisk next to it. I'm a firm believer that the tax, as we're going to talk about in a hot second, is actually legit because the same gaming journalists, folks, that gave sevens to Starfield and 4 for Starfield and are calling on Call of Duty to go the way of the Dodos because it's no longer good anymore. All of a sudden, Bethesda games aren't Bethesda games anymore. Why is that? Is that because they're not Bethesda anymore? Did Todd Howard leave? Did they change development houses? No. Bethesda games they're Bethesda games. And that's a lot of people love those games. All of a sudden now people don't love them. Call of Duty. We're going to talk about it right now. I have it in front of me where Game Rant, who for the most part is a pretty decent website. I don't use them as much as I used to, but they're pretty decent. And they put out an opinion piece that enough's enough with Call of Duty. It's dead. We should all move on. That's pretty interesting that that is now being said when you look at it's wow, they're owned by Xbox, they're owned by Microsoft. Question. So then you go and you say, well, is this true? Well, who could I look to say whether or not they have an opinion that matters to me? I don't know. Someone like Charlie Intel, one of the premier places to get your Call of Duty information. Well, they only said that this is the best Call of Duty since Black Ops 3. But I guess Charlie Intel, they're sellouts over there. They're shills for Microsoft all of a sudden. It's pretty blatant how this industry is run, how things are done, and it's very unfortunate. And again, like I said, I was already, I don't care about someone clipping me and saying, "Oh, there's Boom going on a rant about this the tax again." That's fine. Clip me all you want. The truth of the matter is, I'm speaking from the heart, and it matters to me. And if you're here listening, well, it probably matters to you as well. And speaking of being here, Crispy Bomb, one of the other best voices in the business. And listen, if you're not in Gears 6, I'm gonna throw a rant. How you doing, brother? Welcome back.
I appreciate that. I'm in full turkey mode. I call my cat Turkey now, and all those things. That's
Well, you're a butcher,
that's
so this is your time of year, man.
the worst time of year. It's always great to be back. I mean, it's been, I don't remember the last time I haven't been on a podcast as long as I haven't been these past few weeks. So it is great to be back. And yeah, we got a lot to talk about because you haven't gotten the crispy truth yet.
No, we have not. And we're definitely looking forward to that for sure. So yeah, welcome back, brother. It's great to have you here. I'll pull up some of the other questionable articles and shout out to J Rock, who's been me and him been talking in the DMs. He's been consistently putting stuff in there. And I say this, and I know there's been I've heard the talk, folks. Oh, BoomStick's only talking about Hogwarts because Starfield didn't get enough noms. If you think that, I'm gonna say this live on the air to your face, you are an effing moron. I will tell you that right now. I have almost 4 full days in Hogwarts. I have not beaten that game. And I said it twice already, and I will say it once again, and I'm going to keep saying it until change happens. Anyone, whether it's Jeff Keighley, the 120 panel members, whoever it was that decided that this game did not exist because of what the author, who had nothing to do with the game, said, you are a bunch of cowards. Cowards. That's what you are. Because you took the work of these people who worked super hard on this game that made something so magical, unintended, and you pretended as if it didn't exist. You are a disgrace to the industry, and you are disgusting. I'm going to say that right now. And you know something? You know who agrees with me? The Grammys. Because the game's score just got a Grammy nod. But it didn't get a nod at the Game Awards because, well, that's legit. So, again, sorry for the rant, but I had to say it because if I don't and we stop talking about it, then it's not going to matter. And it matters to me because I thought that, and again, shout out to Kay Asante, this was the Game Awards, meaning that everybody is represented. Well, apparently not everybody. And I will say this, and shout out to Mav and Pong, who did a 4-hour PM in the PM last night. I listened to it this morning while I was doing the wash. It was amazing. And one of the things that Pong Soul said, and I'll continue the introductions. And like I said, I'm doing a whole podcast before we introduce the whole panel. I apologize. But one of the things that Pong actually said that was really good, were really interesting, is that if they could snub and pretend that Hogwarts didn't exist, is it safe to believe or assume that they couldn't do that to something like Starfield because of we're going to get revenge because Microsoft is buying too much? Because how does that work? Is someone in the gaming media listening now? Could you DM me and tell me how that works on the card chart? we can get rid of one, pretend this doesn't exist, but no, that didn't happen for Starfield. It's just not a good game. Is because I'm curious. I'm curious to see how these cue cards for the gaming media work out. It's a conundrum. But anyway, Web Dave, good morning, kind sir. How are you feeling?
I'm here, man. How's it going, buddy? I'm looking forward to the topics today. I have already given my my opinion on the utmost topic, but yeah, I'm looking forward to the other topics we got today.
Yeah, I mean, we're going to talk about the PlayStation Portal.
Oh, yeah.
That there's a lot to get into it. A lot of people have bought it.
Got mine right here, boom.
Yeah, and that's awesome that you have it. See, me, I'll wait for a flash sale when it's like $75 after no one buys it. I'll pick it up. Maybe I'll even get lucky and catch it in the Dollar Tree or something, or the Five and Below. That's a possibility.
Oh, Messi, my friend. Yes.
I mean, listen, it's to me, it's some of the things that are missing from this $200 device make no sense.
Well, I agree.
And like I said, the screen is gorgeous. Let's call a spade a spade. The screen is big. It's beautiful. But the truth of the matter is that it doesn't do what outside of it streaming from your box. It doesn't do anything.
Yeah, it's lacking functionality.
Yeah, the functionality of it. And what's interesting is, according to Sony, they never intended to make a profit on this. I'm going to read you. It's
only the scalpers want to make money off it.
It's pretty crazy. Well, the scalpers, they're going to all take L's on this because they're going to sell it for $199 when it's. I saw someone had posted like 180 of them at $299 and above. Good luck, scalpers. I guess maybe Christmas people are going to get desperate, but I think it's going to sit on the shelf. I really do. I think you're going to get your initial run. People are going to buy it. Like John Wolf bought it. John Wolf, John could be slanderous as you know. And he's I saw him posting it. Mr. Badbit bought it. He showed using it in the bathroom. Good on you, Joe. Congratulations. That's the best place for it. But hopefully your PS5 isn't more than 20 feet away. Otherwise, you're going to get some stutters. And I'm not talking about when you go to the bathroom. I'm talking about when you actually play the game. So, last but not least, Fuzzy Belvedere. How are you doing, brother? Good morning.
Good morning, everyone. Man, great time to be here with everyone. Some pretty interesting topics to get into today. Can't wait to give my spiel on them. But yeah, it's Twitter is this weird, isolated, arguing platform to some extent. But we'll definitely get into some of the things that are blown out of proportion and other things that are ignored or overlooked. But yeah, I'm ready for this podcast, man. Everybody strap up, sit back and relax, have your drink, some popcorn maybe. Yeah, this is gonna be a good one.
Yeah, I will say this, and I'll go first to Silent Cypher on this. The Xbox tax was trending. And the more people that you look on social media, a lot of the journos don't believe it exists. And that's fine because, well, at the core of the voting is usually, it's the journalists. And if a journalist in particular or for a particular site has a distaste for Xbox because their brand of choice is PlayStation, well, then they're going to, instead of judging the game for the game, which is how these things are supposed to work, not what you thought the game was going to be, not what you were told by others it was going to be. You play the game, you judge the game for what the game is. No one. I think that the more that we discuss it, Silent Cypher, the more that people are starting to come around with the belief that yes, there is. I mean, look, there's a video from 2017 that with Greg Miller was interviewing
Major Nelson.
And Major Nelson went into a pretty stout detail about how he believes that Xbox itself as a platform is measured with a different measuring stick. And I think that, again, you can agree, you can disagree, but I don't think that we're being tinfoil hat wearing nuts if we consider that the games as a whole are just not being, because I keep saying this. The question that I have is, how much better does Xbox need to be in order to get a fair shake? Does it have to? Do they have to release one AAA game every quarter and every game is going to hit. Like next year is supposed to be a bombastic year for Xbox first party once again. We know that there are 4 games. Call of Duty, Gulf War is going to be in the fall, right? Opening the year, we're kind of on the fence about that. We don't know if that's Avowed. We don't know if that's Hellblade, but those 2 games will be releasing, right? Now, there's the In Exile game, the that potentially what is it? Something Revolution.
Clockwork Revolution.
Clockwork Revolution. Thank you. Is and again, I don't know, but it showed really well. So it looked very, very complete. I don't know if that's their trailer masters or not, but it looked like it could potentially release. You got Towerborn. The more you hear about that game, and I'm telling you right now, folks, Towerborn is going to be a game that is going to potentially be in the Game of the Year talk, because it's a single player game. It has multiplayer elements. You can play the whole game with multiplayer. It looks phenomenal. And the more you hear about it, even though it's a small game, it's turning heads. I mean, just look at what Jez Corden had to say about it. But getting back to the tax, I'm interested to hear your thoughts and theories, as we haven't talked about this yet. Do you honestly, and like I said, even if you disagree, that's fine. I want to have a conversation. But is there an actual tax that exists? And do you believe, Larry Herb, that there is a different way of judging games?
So I'll say this. I do agree with Larry Herb, Major Nelson, in regards to what he was saying about this. You look at it and people have these preconceived ideas and thoughts of Microsoft as a whole from back in the 90s, back in the early 2000s. I do think there are a lot of people that are like, oh, well, that's Microsoft. And they remember Microsoft in the past. And they're like, oh, they've got a stigma because of that situation. So I do think there are people that judge them on their previous track record. I would not be surprised. I mean, there's always going to be someone holding receipts over something, even if it's like 20, 30 years later. People hold grudges. People like to keep that black eye fresh, right? But in regards to an Xbox tax, because I feel like there's a lot of people out there that don't seem to fully grasp what that is. So I want to break it down a little bit, right? Because Xbox tax, it's the new buzzword. It scares people. It agitates some people. And I think the thing that we have to do is kind of break it down. And Xbox tax is not to dumb it down. And sorry, I'm not trying to do this like an elementary grade school lesson or something, but it's not a physical actual tax. It is a bias against a specific brand, right? So that's it.
What's sad? The fact that you literally have to say that as a prenup is why social media just sucks. Because the minute you say it, people are like, "Oh, there's just another fanboy, an Xbot."
Yeah, which it's like, that's fine. You call me an Xbot if you want to. I play where the games are that I want to play.
Right.
If that ends up being on Nintendo, it's Nintendo. If it's PlayStation, same. If it's the Xbox, if it's a PC, I've got access to all of them. I don't care. Whether you like it or not, whether you see I'm on an Xbox podcast and so then you're like, oh, he's a shill. I don't care about your opinion at that point, because then you haven't done enough research to understand that we play games where the games are. But I think the thing to continue on with that, right, is you look at something like the Game Awards. Now, Ham Solo, shout out to Ham. Ham actually had Paris on last night as well. So you had him on earlier this week, and then he kind of jumped into some more detail last night with Ham as well in regards to the Game Awards. And I agree with Paris in some ways with this, in the fact that, he states, because he was on the panel, it sounded like. So he's gotten to see this process happen.
Yeah, he's definitely one of the judges. Gamertag Radio is one of the judges. They confirm that.
Yeah. So the way he broke it down, right, is And it's, again, it's like you're saying, the fact we have to break it down to this granular level to get some people to understand it is frustrating, but it is what it is. You've got 120 voters. The ones that end up voting for it, like if it gets the best score, that moves on. It's, it's not Jeff Keighley standing there and being like, looking over your shoulder and being like, oh, I'd mark that box instead, otherwise you're not going to be here. Like, no, people made their decisions by themselves. So it's not like it's geared towards a specific. But the thing that I would say, and I don't know how Paris would approach this or think of my thought on it, but the thing that I have to then go with is like, yeah, okay, so there's not a curve to, oh, vote Xbox bad or vote Microsoft bad, but Jeff Keighley chooses the people that he wants to have as the voters for this show, right? So based on that, he chooses who he wants to have representing the different industry outlets. So if those people have a bias towards PlayStation or whatever, and the majority of those people have a bias towards PlayStation, you're not going to see Starfield on the Game of the Year list. That's how that goes. Straightforward, full stop. Like whether you were happy it was not there, which I don't know why you're angry at Starfield so much you wouldn't want to see it on Game of the Year. But whether you did want to see it and you were upset because it wasn't there, it is what it is. Like, he brought people in that had a certain preference. They voted it. It didn't make it. It is what it is. Whether it was Paris's favorite game or a couple other people's favorite game, the majority did not see it as that. And whether they have bias against the system or whatever, that's their thing. It is what it is. But that's what I'm saying is, like, people see Xbox tax and they're like, oh, you're just being a console warrior. No. Let's dive into it more. Let's not just tag it as Xbox tax. It's not just Xbox tax. It's a bias is what it is. It's not a console warring thing just on Xbox side. It insinuates bias on the opposite side. So it's fine. Like, that is what it is. I wasn't shocked the fact that it didn't make it, because again, like, I've been watching Jeff Keighley's career for over 2 decades now. While he's been in the industry, Jeff Keighley telegraphs his moves the same way over and over again. He is Jeff Keighley and he acts as Jeff Keighley. Like, Jeff Keighley's going to do what Jeff Keighley's going to do. And now it's his awards, because no one else has come to power and taken over that. So it is what it is. Like, he's going to bring in the people he wants to have nominate these games. And that may have a, anti-Xbox curve to it. And it may not. It just depends on who he brings in to vote on those games. So sorry, I feel like I just ranted on and on.
No. Listen, this is a conversational podcast, brother. By all means, if you have more to say, take it away. There is no technical time limit here, and I find what you're saying is interesting. And I do want to add some caveat to that before we bring Crispy Bomb. See, one of my biggest issues is when we try to have a conversation. And again, I want this to be clear, folks. I don't care that Starfield is not in the Game of the Year. I'm disappointed in the system that a game as tremendous as it is, that hits on so many points. And I think, like I said, if we're talking about storytelling, why that is incredible is because you can take, and this is I think this is the finite point that you need to make about Starfield. Why it's important, why it matters, why you can consider it a snub. Take 10 people that have over 30 hours in this game, put them in a room, and why this is special and why this is one of the pointed aspects of it being unrecognized for its greatness is that when you would ask those 10 people what has happened or transpired, you might get a few story similarities, because the story is what the story is, but it's in between the story beats that you're going to get all of these different experiences. Some
Mhm.
people have taken, like myself, I'm an action guy. So I want a gunfight. I want to loot. I want to find better armor. I want to find an armor that makes me stealth when I kneel down. I go looking for these things. I'm also a map guy. So when I go to a land on a planet, then I start jumping around all over the place and I see things in the distance. I'm like, damn, I want to see what that is. Then I want to go over here and I'll spend 3 hours on a planet just looking around. And that's how I'm playing it because I'm looking for the gunfight. I'm looking for the loot. Someone else, like my brother, well, he lands on a planet and he starts surveying it and he starts building shit. He builds tons of ships. He has bases all over the place that have mining equipment and he plays it like a sim. Like it's crazy that this game can actually still work and do all of these different things. And that is one of the reasons why. So you ask yourself, and again, one last point here, and this is the driving point home, and you're not going to move me off of this square. If Sony had been able to get this game as a PlayStation 5 exclusive, as we know that they tried, and Microsoft never bought Bethesda, I'm here to tell you that this game, Starfield, would have gotten as many nominations as Death Stranding did when it released, and that was 11. It would have been nominated for everything because it was a PlayStation exclusive, because people love PlayStation. And that is the Xbox tax that we're talking about.
Yeah, I mean, just by a logistical stance, right? Like you look at it and those people, they're generally rating it down because we've seen all the reviews, all the things come through. The people that are voting it down are people that didn't appreciate the fact that they had to play it on a certain ecosystem. You shouldn't let that affect your reviewing score on a game, but some people do it, and it's unfortunate. It is what it is. The last thing I'll say real quick, and this is going to be a little spicy, and I know some folks are not going to agree with me on this, but that's fine. We're here to have that conversation. I think realistically, like if there weren't a couple other items in the Game of the Year listing, that Starfield would have been there for sure. But I think there are certain things that shouldn't be at the game show. Or maybe there should be different categories for them, right? Like remakes, when you've got Resident Evil at the end of it as a Game of the Year. I loved it. I've had a lot of fun with it, but it is a remake of a game that already released, and it did get Game of the Year back in the day. So that's cool, but I don't think it really should have been on that list. I think the biggest thing about the Game Awards, like if there's any takeaway, is that there's a lot of things that need to change because it is flawed in a lot of ways in regards to what goes to certain categories, why there are so many categories when you could consolidate some, expand out on some. But I think something like Resident Evil being in the Game of the Year, I don't think that should be the case, but I also don't think that we should see DLC as Game of the Year. So Zelda should also not be on that list.
No,
because
it's
literally, it's Breath of the Wild 0.5. It's good. It's good. Don't get me wrong, but it's not a $70 purchase, and it's not a full-fledged game. So I think like take those off, and then you probably have Starfield up there as well. But ultimately, it goes back to the people that are there. They vote according to their preference or bias, and that's why we didn't see it on there. And whether people like it or not, bias is the Xbox tax.
Yes.
I know people want to flag Xbox tax as a big bad thing, but it's literally just saying it's a way of saying bias. That's all it is.
No, and ultimately, in the most simplistic, let's pull the mask off the bad guy kind of a thing, like Scooby Doo. It is exactly that. It is basically bias. Now, look, folks, why is that? Well, I don't know, but I'm hoping we're going to get some answers from Crispy Bomb. Crispy, obviously, we have not heard the Crispy truth. We are looking forward to it, but before we get to it, brother, I got to catch up on some of these super chats because there's been a ton of them. And the first message comes the way of our good friend, generous friend of the program, Dreadful Sean, who has been a channel member, folks, for 10 months. And he says, good morning, all. Silence is compliance. Smash that like button. Indeed, it is. And like I said, you can oh no, it's Alex me all you want. You can clip me. I don't think I get ridiculous. I don't think I start, I don't think I'm wrapping my head with tinfoil. I think we're having a conversation. And I think that literally, if you just look at the wall, the writing is there. Whether you choose to read it or you don't, it's fine. I see. I saw somebody in the chat, and again, I don't want to put names because I don't want anybody piling on anybody because there's no bullying here. You bully somebody, I'm going to bounce you, and if I don't get you, Leave the Pop is going to get you. Everyone's allowed to have a different opinion. He said something about, well, the game is very, very much the same. I think he was referring to Starfield. And that is an incorrect take, dude. Like, then that means that you have not played that game, or you have not taken the time to play that game. Because I could say the same thing about the 8.5 Spider-Man. I'm very much enjoying it, but Spider-Man is very much Spider-Man 2018 with some new moves, a different story, but it is very much the same thing. You're stopping the cars with your web and your feet. You're saving people out of a burning building. You're stopping two people getting beat up in a group underneath a train track. You're taking somebody to the hospital because they're limping. It's very similar in nature. Did that lessen the gameplay the gameplay loop for me? No, because I'm a map guy. Like, I have 15 hours in, and I haven't even gotten to the missions with Peter's with Mary Jane, because I like doing things on the map. I'm a map guy. So, like I said, you'll run through Spider-Man in 18 hours, and that's good on you. I'll run through it in 55 hours because I take my time with these things. It's why I have nearly 4 days in Hogwarts, and I haven't beaten that game because I'm amazed at how that game looks. I just like flying around on my broom doing side stuff. So if you were, whoever they said it, I won't say the name because, like I said, no piling up here. But if you say that it's that it's the same experience for everybody with Starfield, you are lying, sir. You have not played that game, because that game is different for everyone that picks up that controller.
Is there? Can I say something real quick on Harry Potter?
Go ahead.
Sorry,
Yeah,
I forgot to mention. I went on that tangent earlier. No, the only thing I wanted to say with that is, like, I agree with you. I think the decision to not have Hogwarts in there was obviously,
Cowardly.
given the political situation and all
Cowards.
of the issues around it, you can tell as to why it didn't end up there. Jeff is not someone who likes confrontation, so he wasn't going to tackle that or take a stand one way or another.
Disgusting.
But I think the one thing that I do want to say with it, and it's very much similar to what you're saying, right, is like, you can't fault the devs that made this game for a decision that that this lady ended up making, right? Like, that was her issue. Just because they're making the video game doesn't mean they have the same belief and stance as this woman. That's not fair.
Yeah, it's not fair because she's simply the owner of the IP.
Yeah.
He literally had zero input whatsoever to the game, and her stupidity, whether you agree with her or you don't agree with her, it's still considered stupidity. What she ultimately did is screw over the hundreds of people that really put their heart and soul into this game, and to pretend that it does not exist. I get it, folks. If the game was a 5 out of 10 because it was just another terrible licensed IP, you wouldn't hear anything from me because it didn't deserve to be there. But if you play that game, you understand how magical, pun intended, that it is. And I've said this before, Cypher, and I'll say it again. The game had literally no right to be as good as it was, and it was something truly special.
Yeah, and if you're going to boycott a whole bunch of different franchises and series and all these things based on someone who's made bad choices or said bad things or has bad stance. I hate to tell you, but you're probably not going to buy many things out in the market in general. You're going to
where
stop
was this
shopping at
tenacity when there was some things that were going on with The Last of Us 2?
it's a
I'm
you
just
and I
saying,
both
like,
know it's a different it's a
I
different
mean,
situation.
are we playing with the same? I'm just saying, are we playing with the same deck of cards, folks?
Yeah, but
Because
I mean, it's seriously like, are you going to stop eating at Chick-fil-A because the guy at the top has anti-LGBTQ stance? Some people will. That's fair. Are you going to stop shopping at Walmart because those guys have a specific stance? Like, if you look into most of these companies, someone has done something you don't like. You can't fault the people at the bottom just for the idiot at the top. Unfortunately, that's what it is. If you do research on any company, you're going to find skeletons in the closet that you don't like.
Yeah, it's absolutely. Listen, it's. I'm glad we're having this conversation. Great way to open it up. Crispy Bomb, let's get your hot take on the quote unquote Xbox tax. Does it exist, or is it in the Xbox imagination as we're being told?
Xbox tax is real. It's not Starfield. I have a problem with one category that got 3 games that have done an incredible job at community support.
Oh yeah,
That's what we're talking about here. Okay. Halo Infinite, Sea of Thieves,
yep,
and Grounded.
yep.
They have done an incredible job. PC, platform, whatever. They have done, I'm going to tell you right now, got young kids playing those games like hot water. Like, it's just like, oh, like, let me get my tea real quick. Like, that's where I have a problem. Okay. You give flowers for only bringing out single player games to PlayStation. You give flowers to Nintendo that the majority of their games are, regurgitated IPs that do things that, nobody else is willing to do at times. But are they not the same damn game? These games, and I'm talking about this specific category, and it drives me crazy, have done things either that they haven't done even though they've been out forever, like Halo, or you have a small dev team that has done incredible things like Grounded, which the young man upstairs is playing who's 16 years old. Okay. And on top of that, Sea of Thieves has just been a juggernaut for years now.
Yeah.
Okay. That's community support. This is the problem I have. Like, none of those got nominated for community support. But you have Destiny 2 in there, which I've heard the worst possible things about it lately. I went from watching people all the time bring up Destiny to having no one talk about it.
Yep.
You want to be silent? That's not going to fix the problem. I've done it with Gears. I've gotten hate for it. Okay. You can't say that. Like, Gears is perfect. No, it's not. Sorry. It's not. Now it's much better, but they're moved on to other things. You know what I mean? They've already done the fixing process. They have went through it and they have made the game. I still find the match. I played it last night. I'm just telling you, like, Xboxes hold it at a different standard because they bring out another element that many of these other companies don't. And that's a full-on supported multiplayer. It is very hard to do, apparently, because they're the only ones that do it right. It is hard for people that want these single-player games to be the best thing ever, but also grew up with that, to accept the fact that there is no end game for that. It is going to disappear in some way, shape, or form. And the one thing I'll say is you get a campaign and you get a multiplayer with a lot of Xbox styles. And you have to look at that and say, at the end of the day, do I want to continue my gaming experience or not? Do they provide the mechanics, the ability to have fun with my friends after I've beaten the campaign or something like that? Xbox does that. And next year, I think you're going to see a full-on onslaught of single-player games. And we have them. Hi-Fi Rush is a single-player game. Okay? There's been flowers thrown out there. You know, Starfield nominated for RPG. You know, okay, yeah. I mean, but you're going against Baldur's Gate 3. Never played the game. Honestly, if I play it, and when it comes out for Xbox, I might not like it. I'm gonna be honest with you, because I'm a gamer. Like, I play games. Like, I want full control. I don't want to watch a movie. If I want to watch a movie, I watch it on my TV screen. I watch Netflix or whatever the heck it is. Okay. That's the point. Like, the categories, the way they laid them out, it just doesn't make sense. My point is, Jeff Keighley, I swear to God, if you take this at some point, I'm going to sue you. Gamers' Choice Awards. Where's that? The actual gamers. We vote on it. Okay? You could do the same vote as what you do for, you know, the one category they give us for the vote of the Game Awards.
He
How about
doesn't
for
want to
all
see
of
the
them?
results of those. He doesn't want to
Because
see
I'm
the
going to tell
results
you
of those
something right
because then
now.
he'd actually see something he didn't like.
A lot of people will go for the games that have done and supported and continue to innovate themselves. And that's what they'll go for, because that's what they're playing. It's not, I'm sorry, it's not RE4 Remake. Why is that, you know, game of the year? I mean, are you kidding me? Okay, like, let's be honest here. You want to see a good remake? Go play Gears Ultimate. Okay? Go play that. Because I'm going to tell you right now, it's sad that, you know, we've gotten to the point where you look at it only through one lens and not both lenses and say, is this worthy? It is not. I'm sorry. You could put Hogwarts there. I would be fine with that. You were close. I mean, it's not bad, but you got 2 Nintendo games, you got a PlayStation, and then you got a PC game. And then you got RE4. What? I get it. Great remake. It's still a remake. The game already came out. Okay, like, come on. You know what I mean? Like, these things, they drive me crazy, because at the end of the day, like, you look at something like Starfield, like, look at every planet you land on. You have different gravitational pull. You have different mechanics as you go throughout the game. Like, I landed on the moon, and I actually felt like I landed on the moon. It actually felt like I was floating through air and shooting people and doing things that I never thought was possible. You know what I mean? And they just basically like, okay, you get RPG, and you're going to get destroyed by Baldur's Gate 3. And nobody's going to say a word. I mean, we've seen it with Sekiro. You know what I mean? Sekiro ran the table at the Game Awards when that came out that year. You know what I mean? It ran the table, but we were cool with it. And I didn't play the game. I'm not a Souls guy, but I was cool with it. I was like, whatever. You know what I mean? But you go into IGNs and stuff like that, and they rate these Xbox games, these exclusives that have been there forever, and they say, oh, well, here's a multiplayer score, here's a single player score. Well, you're going to take points off for not having a multiplayer on these PlayStation exclusives or these Nintendo exclusives? I don't get it. It doesn't make sense. And that's where I say, like, somebody needs to come out with a Gamers' Choice Awards and see what the actual people actually want.
Yeah. No.
And then you might have an epiphany and say, where are we at? You know what I mean?
Yeah, you know, you would like an opportunity as a fan, and you know, if you ask me, Boom, did you vote? Did you vote for the Game Awards this year? Nah, I didn't. We account for 10%. 10%, that means nothing. Now, if there's going to be, I haven't seen the category yet, community pick. I know they had that one when Halo won last year. When it wasn't even nominated, that would, I would vote for that. All the other stuff I wouldn't vote for. Why should I? I account for 10%. 90% of the vote are going to come from the journalists that all had that continually have negative things to say about Xbox and Xbox owned IPs. I told you folks, you think I was BSing. Maybe you don't think Call of Duty single player is good. Okay, I mean Modern Warfare 3's play, you feel it's tacked on because it has a lot of Warzone stuff in there, which I don't play Warzone, and I quite enjoyed it. I took the time to get the 90-point achievement. I told you guys this before. I found every weapon in every one of the orange boxes in the whole campaign. Now, maybe that's not your bag. I hear you. I quite enjoyed myself. Is it a 10 out of 10? No, it's probably an 8 out of 10 for me in regards to Call of Duty. But I enjoyed it. The multiplayer, I tried it. I bought the Ash skin. I put it to this way. I'm not a Call of Duty guy. I'm a Halo guy, as you can tell. I don't get it. It just does not hit with me, and that's perfectly fine. That's perfectly fine. But it hits with a lot of people because I don't know. It's only the best-selling game on Steam, Xbox, and a PlayStation like right now. So according to Game Rant, they said that we should just move on. That Call of Duty is dead. It's just ridiculous. Web Dave, let's bring you in on the conversation. But before I do want to catch up on the super chats and see what do we got here. We have okay, so I started the super chats and didn't even finish them. So Drawn TJ drops not one but two super chats. The first one says, yes, the PlayStation Porta Potty bundle with a DOS router. Oh my goodness. He says this with an additional $5 super chat next year. Sony, nothing. Xbox, Clockwork, Towerborn, Microsoft Flight Sim 24, Hellblade 2, Avowed, Call of Duty, and possibly Forza Horizon 6. Yeah, I don't know. Forza Horizon, I'd love a Forza Horizon 6, but I think that the thing with Xbox right now is that we know for the next 3 years, right? We know that we don't know what the exact schedule is, but we do know that according to Phil Spencer, head of Microsoft Gaming, that they're going to have 4 AAA blockbuster titles. Those are his words, folks, per year. So for the next 3 years, as an Xbox fan, but more importantly, a customer, an Xbox Game Pass subscriber, that you're going to get 12 games, not including everything else that they're bringing to the table with indies and double A's and triple A, deals that they're going to get with games into Game Pass. That's a roadmap. We don't have that. We don't have a roadmap for Sony, but yet no one's asking those questions. Why isn't there one? I don't know. Could you tell me? Any Sony folks here that know better than I do? Where's the articles? If you say that there's no tax, if there's no quote unquote bias, as Silent Cypher said, where are the articles? I don't know, but we're gonna get into it on how the paid media, well, at least one of the paid media sites reviewed the PlayStation Portal as highly as the ROG Ally, which is I mean, are we going to take these people serious, folks? We are not. But Web Dave, I'll get to you in a hot second. The Black Viking drops a very generous $5 super chat and says, on one hand, they claim these are individuals reviewing the game, right? That's what they say. On the other hand, if said low-reviewed games get nominated, it discredits the entire outlet. Pretty interesting stuff there. Makes you think. Lau Shimazaki drops a very generous $5 super chat and says, personally, I don't care about being called a shill. I shouldn't have to apologize for being an Xbox gamer here in Japan. Well, shout out to you for being an Xbox gamer in Japan, because like I said, I know it's still like super low in a totem pole, but no apology is necessary. Game where you want to game, and that's perfectly fine. Kale Walker drops a very generous $5 super chat and says, "If the voting process was truly a thorough process, then the esports coach that didn't coach this year wouldn't have been nominated." Yeah, that's one of the big mistakes. The other one that I just find to be, again, Crispy actually talked about it before on his rant. Cyberpunk ongoing game. I mean, like, he just mentioned Halo Infinite, which you see in front of you. This is by far the best that Halo has been, folks. If you haven't played it, I'm here to sell it to you. I get nothing for it. It's the best Halo since Halo 3. Ask anybody that is a diehard Halo fan, and they will agree. This is the best Halo we have had for multiplayer since Halo freaking 3. And these are the Halo 3 maps. They dropped 7 old classics and 1 new one. I mean, I don't know what to tell you. Bold Alpha Wolfpack drops an outstanding $20 super chat and says Microsoft needs to strike while the iron is hot. PlayStation has nothing in the pipeline. If Microsoft can get some timed exclusivity on the top 4 third-party games that will cement them to dominate for the next gen, maybe even the next 2 gens. Yeah, I mean, we did hear from Sony regarding what their roadmap is. It's not first party. What their roadmap is spending a lot of money to lock up exclusivity. I don't think it's going to matter personally. I don't know what's coming out next year that they could possibly lock up as an exclusive that's going to make you go, "Oh, I'm not playing on Xbox this year." I don't know. Smokey, who's been a channel member for 32 months, brother, thank you for that. He says, "Have you seen or talked about the Modern Warfare 3 Series X bundles that the UK is promoting?" I actually did not see that. The last Modern Warfare bundle that I saw was a naked man with a PlayStation in front of his crotch. That was the last thing that I saw in regards to. No, that's honestly, that's the last advertising for bundles. And like I said, shout out to that dude. Like that guy's comfortable in his own skin. That is awesome. I would never do that personally, but listen, shout out to him that he's that excited, brother. That's amazing. Tim the Sorcerer, who's been a channel member for 16 months, says this: Windows is moved under gaming pillar. You people realize that basically there are around 1.6 billion Xbox users. I mean, it's true. I think that what you're going to see, and I'm actually looking forward to them actually doing this, is when they move the members that are paying for gold that have been now moved into the new tiers, whether that's going to be accountant for Xbox Game Pass. I would imagine it was, because Sony did that as well. I'm sure you'll see articles. "Oh, look, Xbox is trying to fudge the numbers. That's because they can't get anybody to get their trash service." Folks, I'm just in my mind, I'm just reading the articles already because that's how they're probably going to go. Web Dave, brother, let's get to you. I know you talked about the tax. Is there anything you want to add to your original conversation regarding it?
I mean, it's clear that that there's people that just, they want to watch the world bleed, and they just want Xbox to fail no matter what. That's what they want, because for whatever reason they're stuck up Sony's ass, and they just think that they are the end all be all, and they're not. And that's okay, because we're going to enjoy Game Pass and all the amazing content and all the continued purchases and acquisitions that Phil's going to make the Xbox dominant in the future, and I look forward to it.
Yep. Well, I mean, listen, simple and to the point. Appreciate that, of course. Listen, Fuzzy Belvedere, you've been chomping at the bit. I've made you spit out your water 3 times. I apologize for that. I'm just trying to have fun. And like I said, the guy that advertised for Sony, they should pay that dude. Like, they should logistically pay that dude, because first of all, he's a pretty built dude. Like, he's in good shape. That guy threw himself out right on the line. And if Sony doesn't give him, if he doesn't get the matching headphones and the PlayStation Portal for that, shame on you, Sony, because that dude just literally sold potentially millions of copies. Standing again, be comfortable in your own skin. I could never do that. I give that man lots of credit. That's pretty bombastic, I gotta say. But with that said, let's reel this in. Let's reel this in. What are your takes, Fuzzy? Because I know that you're going to come at this from a very educated way, which is normally how you attack these things. Yeah, yes, you have gone on rants, but I think that there is a lot to say here still. And I think what frustrates me as a content creator and as a host of 5 shows, I hate the word shill because you go out there and you like a brand. And that same terminology is not used equally. Like, I don't really use the word ponies, right? Like, it's just not. I do I find it, quote unquote derogatory? Nah, it's not like a racial slur or something. But I just don't engage in that. I won't say pony. I don't like to say Xbot. I don't know what you could say with Nintendo. What are you, Nintendorks or something? Whatever fits the bill. I don't know. I will say that it seems to me, especially with the media, that when someone who is an Xbox centric fan and you push back against something that is happening, oh, it's the Xbox wearing the tinfoil hats. If you're a Sony guy or gal and you go out on the socials and you say, hey, listen, I don't like this, it's you're rah-rah by the media. I don't like that. I really don't like that. What are your takes on the quote unquote tax that no one wants to believe is a thing?
I would say I'm going to give them a good parallel. Being a car enthusiast, following the automotive industry from as far back as the 80s on to today, I would say look at the American automotive industry and how the automotive review industry or media didn't take so kindly to that segment in the 80s, 90s, the 2000s, the 2010s, and even to some extent today, with one exception. The only really favored American automotive brand is Tesla, and it's the new kid on the block, and it's more of that iPhone new tech aspect that has them enamored. But when you look at how the auto industry, I mean, it was deserving in the 80s and 90s. Let's be real. There was no reason to have a Cadillac Cimarron. It was basically a Chevrolet Cavalier with a Cadillac grill and tail lights kind of thing. So there was some warrant to the media kind of turning on the American automotive industry, while the imports were starting to do similar things with copy and paste, much like GM and other brands did. But they at least upgraded their copy and paste to the point where there was sound deadening. There were better features that weren't available in like a base Honda Accord versus an Acura Legend and things like that. So for years, you would always see like JD Power and Associates and all these car of the year things where certain cars would win. Now, American cars would win on occasion where they redesigned the Taurus and they couldn't kind of ignore the fact that it was selling, 2 Tauruses for every Honda Accord or Toyota Camry at the time. But then again, those were also in the rental fleet, so that kind of inflated the numbers a bit. But all of that aside, when you look at the media, there were distinct times where the Buick might be the best car, but because it's a GM product and people didn't really care for GM because a GM, a Buick was basically a Cadillac with a different nose at certain points, it always got overlooked until they started focusing more so on like customer feedback. GM started, flooding the ballads with, I guess, the JD Power and Associates, where it's based on the consumer feedback on, is this car, holding up? And then there were a few stories that, like the whole, Firestone tire thing with Ford, with the Ford Explorer, that's understandable. That should have been front page news. But you didn't hear as much news, although at some point it eventually did not catch fire, but there was the whole thing with the stuck pedal deals with Toyota products and stuff like that. So there are times where the media will show its bias, maybe not as in your face as we see it when it's in the gaming space, But in the automotive industry, it's been that way for some time, and it still goes that way today. Even if there's a Cadillac that has better features and better reliability and better customer feedback than a BMW, you'll see the BMW will get more of the praise. And cars are more of a preference based thing to some extent. Some things you can just look at tallies and numbers of specs, more leg room, more hip room, more headroom, better noise canceling, or better ride on highway and better fuel economy and things like that. But there were times where all of that was ignored if it was an American brand in comparison to its import equivalent from Toyota or Honda or Mercedes or any brand, like even Infinity and things like that. So there is always going to be some bias in all forms of media. I mean, look at politics, for example. But all of that aside, to say that there is no bias, or to play it off as it's a conspiracy theory, as opposed to looking at the evidence of certain things where games get ignored for arbitrary reasons. Like, all right, I understand that there were some people that were saying, okay, well, Forza or Forza Horizon was like the game of the year for IGN. Yeah, the reason being is at the time it wasn't a big focus on the Gran Turismo. There wasn't really competition in that space. People were already tired of the Need for Speeds, and Crew was middling between a Need for Speed and a festival racer. So until more recently with Motorfest, pretty much they weren't quite up to par when it came to that aspect of an arcade racer. So if you're going to look at an arcade racer, and you can't ignore at the time when they had 18 million people within like the first couple of months as being
the total is over 30 million now. So 30 million now.
You can't ignore certain things when the actual consumer base is rallying behind the product. I mean, Hi-Fi Rush is another case where if it wasn't a stealth drop, I'm pretty sure the media would have had a slightly different take. But it's kind of hard to say, oh, this game is crap, or it's this is a dated style that nobody wants, when you got 10 million people playing at a certain time and saying, oh, this game is great, or oh, this came out of nowhere, this feels like something that you should see on a Nintendo Switch or something like that.
What I heard, which was I don't know whether you can consider this to be, it's more of a compliment than it is an insult.
Mm-hmm.
That really does look like a PlayStation game. I can't believe Xbox got that.
Yeah. and that's the thing. And at some point there is going to be a slow erosion of the bias amongst the gaming media. Either new talents are going to come into the forefront, or more prominent voices are going to be heard from other outlets, and other outlets will start to fall off. Look at G4. It was believed to be like a second coming of like old style game reviews, and we all saw how that burned down pretty quickly. But all of that aside, to discount something where there are clear cases of where bias has been shown, and just because the word tax is used, it's automatically, well, I only worry about taxes when it comes to April 15th or what, April 18th or whatever. Like, I get it, but if you don't want to call it tax, call it for what it is. It's a clear bias. And if you're not believing that that's the case, look at what, like, if you were to ask a majority of these journalists, and it goes to even some of those that are Xbox fans or PlayStation fans or Nintendo fans now, what is the console that's most significant in your gaming history? A lot of them will say the PS1 or 2 is probably that console for them that are in the media. And if you're always been on the PlayStation and you didn't really care for Xbox, like I've always been honest with people in the Xbox community, I was one of those that hated Microsoft because of PC gaming during Windows ME and Windows Vista time. I mean, there's other reasons why it didn't do so well for the computers I was using at the time. But all of that said, I had no interest in looking at an Xbox. I figured if they can't get gaming right on PC, why am I going to bother with a console that's supposed to be just focused on gaming? But all those things aside, fast forward to 2014, I saw that there was things like Sunset Overdrive. Drive Club came out on PlayStation, and it didn't live up to the expectation at launch, even after a year delay. And they're talking about it's a Forza killer. that's going to make me curious to see, well, what are you trying to kill over there? So that's why I came over to Xbox, and it's like I haven't looked back. I mean, yes, I still buy a PlayStation for its exclusives, and I've never really been the Nintendo guy. I've always been a Sega guy in the past, but it's just what it is when it comes to my preference now is more so Xbox because of Forza Motorsport and Horizon and a lot of the other exclusive titles that have come there, and then the whole ecosystem as far as the rewards points and benefits that you get, and the fact that it's easy on my wallet having two, well, they're now 18, but two teenagers or young kids growing up playing video games and stuff like that. It made it easier having it with Xbox with game share. Yes, I know PlayStation has game share as well, but if most of the games that they're playing are games that are on both the platforms after I had already kind of focused on Xbox, if most of those games are on Xbox and it's easier for me to buy the game once and they can play it and I can play it, it just made it so much easier for me at that time, especially when the kids were into Minecraft and other games along those lines. Yes, Minecraft is everywhere, but if it's a first party game and it's in Game Pass, then it's even easier now that they have their own consoles and have their own PCs and stuff. But to believe that people have tinfoil hats, like there's a cabal or something like that goes behind the scenes. No, you don't even
lizard
have
people.
to do that. You don't have to
The
have
Illuminati.
those extreme cases of things to have a bias that's easy to recognize. Like you could point out certain journalists that have made statements like, oh, it's going to be bad or it's going to be consequences,
there are ramifications.
With the whole ABK deal and Bethesda and all that stuff. And you have media. I don't even know why we call them media outlets, because who counts Metro as an actual media outlet? But they exist.
That's the thing. And Jeff Keighley does.
Yeah,
and Jeff Keighley has them on the board to vote, which is, again, it's one of those things like, wait a second. You know that they are anti-Xbox. You know that they literally said in their review of Hi-Fi Rush, we wish we could give Hi-Fi Rush a better score, but because Microsoft has had such a dry spell with first party, we can't. Like, someone actually said that.
Boom. That should literally be your response to anyone. If anyone ever brings up, oh, there's no Xbox tax, you should just copy paste that. Drop the screenshot, because seriously, I forget about that sometimes, but that was a very gross and prime example of what we're talking about.
And of course, that's not everybody, Fuzzy, but that there are a significant amount of young journalists that this is their mindset. Sorry.
And to think that you can't have fanboyism in journalism is absurd. Like, you have fanboyism in other forms of media. Like, I'm not going to pick a side, but you have CNN on one side and you have Fox News on the other side. Do I need to say anything more?
There you go.
But you can have extreme views on something in gaming, in automotive, in any topic, and it can be reflected in the media in ways that create shade for one side or pumps up the other side in any format where it's pointed out. Don't say that it's like, oh, somebody's tinfoil hat theory type of thing. Look at it for what it is. Like, if you are on that same spectrum in agreement that, okay, well, there is no bias there, then you might have more bias than you're claiming that you recognize in yourself. Self-awareness, I guess, but whatever the case may be. But it pains me to see people try and argue back that it doesn't exist, but yet they do. And some people will say, yeah, bias exists, but that's where the whole Xbox tax thing came from. It's if it's going to be about semantics, about calling it a tax, fine.
Yeah.
Just call it bias and agree that we both see on either side that there's a bias, but don't try to shame people into thinking that they're wearing a tinfoil hat just because things didn't go their way, and political or other other reasons a game like Hogwarts gets ignored or games get snubbed, like Jedi Survivor and all these things where they have these timing windows, and it only seems like Sony games meet those timing windows, and other games, they're out in the cold because nobody wants to change their vote if they've already, submitted their votes and whatnot. But I've rambled enough on that, but just like I said, if you don't believe that bias exists in media, look at politics, look at automotive, look at sports, look at anything, and you can see that it's there. And that's what we're referring to with the media as it stands, because Xbox, in all intents and purposes, is not the widely preferred brand in the media. You have some that have Xbox platform access, whether it's through PC or console, but a majority of them, if you were to ask them, hey, what's the primary console you play third party games on? I would say over 70% are probably going to say their PlayStation, but that's just my observation.
Yeah, and that's fine. Listen, play what you want to play. I'm just saying that if you're going to suggest that there is a bias that does not exist, then you're just not reading the room. You don't want to read the room, and that's fine. You don't have to. Listen, we have 2 topics. We're already an hour and 10 into this one. I didn't realize it was gonna, we were gonna really go ham on it, but it's fine. We're having a great conversation. We have over 600 people here. If you are here still, hit the like button before you get on out. And of course, if you're finding the channel for the first time, we are a pinch over 300 away from 14K. Would love to hit that by the end of the year. And you can help us do that by subscribing to the channel. I do the show 5 days a week, Monday through Friday, 5 different panels, 5 different shows, all great content. You know what we won't do? We don't use bias. We don't use hate. We don't hate monger to get your like. We don't use clickbait to get you to sub. The titles are what they are, and we come here and we have a discussion. And the next discussion that we're going to have is, I want to talk about Embracer Group, because they're in a bit of a pickle. We have learned through a recent article that they are in the process of probably having to sell off some of their assets, including game IPs, game studios, locations, teams, and etc. This comes and this comes the way I got to find the article, but the article does say Embracer Group is actively exploring the divestment of certain assets relative to process to increase external funding of game dev projects that they're currently working on, which means ultimately, and in layman's terms, they're running out of money. Now, I have to immediately go to our guest, Silent Cypher. For me, I think that, first of all, if you don't know, Phil Spencer knows Lars very well. Lars is the CEO of Embracer Group. They are good friends. I really do hope that because they are already working together, that there was something in the contract that if someone wanted to buy, let's say, like Eidos Montreal and potentially Crystal Dynamics, they would have first right to purchase them if it hasn't happened already. These are 2 studios that, if you were like, one of the things that I've been asking for on the Xbox side, it's to see them take a PlayStation level of interest in, and that is in the superhero genre. And I'm not talking about DC. DC could stay where it is. WB could stay where it is. I know that there was some talk about them wanting to buy them. That's not what I'm talking about. I want to see representation from Marvel the same way you're going to see that you've seen Spider-Man in 3 games, of course, with Miles Morales, and now with the new Wolverine potentially coming in 2025. And it being that it's Insomniac, it's probably going to be a freaking really good game. So if you were to attain these 2 particular studios, I think it would be tremendous, because you would be acquiring massive talent. Now, again, maybe Avengers wasn't your bag. It was a great single player story. It was messy with everything else. The multiplayer, the egregious prices for the outfits, the dumb loot boxes that you found, like pants for Hulk. It was just stupid. It made no sense.
The character models.
Yeah, the character models were not all that great, but if you
why was I playing third-rate superhero knockoffs?
I mean,
sorry. Continue.
No, you could suggest that. I mean, a lot of people wanted the character models from the MC, which is what they should have done. But then, of course, you had Eidos, who made Guardians of the Galaxy, which was freaking on another level, like phenomenally good story, gameplay, everything about that game was just fantastic. The other thing, Silent, that I want them to go for, and I think that it is so worth it no matter what they have to pay for it, and that is the IP for Tomb Raider and Lara Croft. I think that her being a lead female character, as she's been for decades, would be tremendous for Xbox. I think that she still has a lot of years left in her, and if they are selling off IPs, there you can go get Deus Ex, you can go get Soul Reaver, would be another great IP to acquire, because they, that would be amazing to bring that back with somebody. There's a lot of things. Do you think, my question is, do you think Microsoft is gonna step in to help?
Yes.
Okay.
A very long and short on that one. Yes, I think, like you said, Phil Spencer knows Lars pretty well. There's obviously that connection there. It almost feels like, if you go down the conspiracy theory rabbit hole, like it almost felt like basically Embracer was like a shell company, like a holding company uh, for some of these purchases to happen in the future. Obviously, like, we saw what happened. They had a massive investment that failed on them. So now they're in a bad spot, and now they're having to sell things off. It's getting bleak, and that sucks. Because, like I remember a few years ago when these guys were buying all these things, we're like, holy crap, like this is going to be like a freaking treasure chest, treasure chest, like a war trove of like Time Splitters, of Tomb Raider, of Deus Ex, of all these games, and then all the old games too, that we haven't seen IP reiterations or like any franchise like renewal on those games for years. But then you saw things happen like Saints Row, the reboot, which unfortunately, like I was so hopeful that we're gonna have another good Saints Row.
Me too.
And then it came out, and I was like, okay, it's
There was
like
a bunch of Starbucks workers that were the characters, which was awful.
Yeah,
Yeah, it was awful.
that's the thing that sucks is like I feel like the characters weren't very likable. The world was fun, and it was fun to play around in, but it didn't have that heart and soul that the old Saints Row games
Well, there was no
had.
Johnny Gat that you could
Yeah,
you can
there was
attach
no
yourself
there was
to,
no
you know what I'm
Gat, there was
saying?
no Boss, there was no
Yeah.
Shawnee, there was none of it, and
Yeah.
it hurt because it felt like such a hollow thing. And it's like, then they started closing things down on that. It's like, well, yeah, you literally you gave fans of this something they did not ask for. The
Yep.
fans were asking for a real Saints Row experience, and you gave them something like that was like an Agents of Mayhem type of scenario. Like no one cared. Like unfortunately. But yeah, so like you look at this, and obviously they've been shuttering things because it seems like their investments aren't working out for them yet, and they can't carry the bag for very long in the current situation. So I do think we're going to see these purchases. I really hope, like you said, that we see Tomb Raider, Deus Ex.
Yeah, dude. Oh my
pick up some of these. Like, don't let them go dormant, or don't let them go dormant again, right? Like, if I'm kind of convinced that like if Deus Ex stays where it's at right now, I don't know if we're going to really see a sequel anytime soon, because
Probably
realistically
not.
they're hemorrhaging money, and I don't think they want to try and make that gamble that like all of a sudden this will be the Deus Ex that suddenly blows up and they make a bunch of money off of it. Like they're in cost cutting and cost saving tactics right now, not
Yes.
investment mode. So I do think we're going to see this, and I really, really hope that it's a couple of those key ones like we're talking about. I mean, I kind of feel like there will, even though a lot of people are exhausted on acquisition mode and stuff, I get it. Like, I don't think we need another publisher anytime soon, but I do think, picking up these small studios and stuff, I think would be really good, or picking up IPs and having some of your in-house studios work on it. I think that's a path forward that benefits everyone. And I think that would be a really cool thing.
And I want to just add some context to that.
Yeah.
With all the studios that they just got from ABK, you'd like to believe that we're going to get a new prototype. You'd like to believe that Singularity could get a reboot or a sequel.
Guitar
But
Hero.
oh my god, dude! Like I mean, well, Phil Spencer's talked about it, so I think they're thinking about it because he mentioned it. So
I hope.
I don't know. We will certainly see. A crispy bomb. Let's get your hot take on this, kind sir. I know a bunch of super chats came in. I'm going to get to them, folks, when I'm done with Crispy. But Crispy, we got to talk about this because I know that, that's a great point by Silent once again. We're all really tired about acquisitions, right? Like, oh my god. But what we don't want to see is someone like Embracer Group completely go away, and you just never know, right? This business is cutthroat. If you don't have what it takes, your business is going to close, right? That's what happens. I don't want to see Lars lose his business. This is a guy that started selling games out of his garage, folks. Like if you know his history, he started out out of a garage, out of a warehouse, and he has built this amazing thing. And being that, like I said, just from the let's make this make sense, right? Crystal Dynamics is working on Perfect Dark. Eidos Montreal is working with Playground Games on Fable. These are two studios that are entrenched in major, absolutely major AAA first party games. It almost seems like a no-brainer when they look. I said this before, so I'm not ashamed to show you my heartstrings. My heart broke when Embracer bought all of them. I was like, my God, if Microsoft would have been hung up with ABK, they would have stepped right in and they would have owned everything. It would have been crazy. But what are your thoughts on this, man? Does Microsoft step in to help Embracer?
They already have. They already have, two studios that are working on IPs for them. That's where you go and say, did Embracer bite off more they can chew, or did their eyes were just bigger than their stomach? And this has become prevalent at this point. They have a lot of IPs that, for us old heads, we actually, say, oh, damn, they have that? Like Destroy All Humans, Duke Nukem. You know what I mean? Obviously Borderlands, that's been, prevalent for a while. Darksiders. I mean, they have IPs that are pretty, substantiated in the fact that they've bought these companies and done nothing with those IPs, or they've done minimal, or it's been, not critically acclaimed, not what it used to be. And I think, they've spent too much money. They are folding themselves back and saying, okay, we've done all of this. It's time to sell some of these IPs, probably for a profit at the end of the day. The stock market is not the greatest thing right now, and they rely on that in some way. And you have a big buyer that is willing to spend, which they've just proven with the ABK deal and the amount they went through to get this deal done. And you say, well, we already have Crystal Dynamics and Eidos working on games for Xbox because they rented our services, if you want to call it that. We have a good relationship with them. Why not? We'll give them the family discount. You don't know. You know what I'm saying? And you look at that and you say, but we have these IPs. You know what I mean? That haven't been touched in years. I mean, I remember so many people loving like a game like Destroy All Humans. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Loving certain aspects of Borderlands at times. and then it just fell off.
You know what? That's a great point. Gearbox would be another one, but they'd have to bounce Randy Pitchford. That guy is not good for the industry.
Yeah, he's
if
a D-bag.
Yeah, he's a absolute D-bag, Mr. Magic. Yeah, I don't like if he. Poor Fuzzy is dying over there. Yeah, he would have to go. He would be. You know what he would be ultimately like? Not as bad, but if you were the best, it's the best comparison I have.
Bobby.
Yes. It's like keeping Bobby Kotick. No, nobody wants to keep that dude. So same thing with Randy Pitchford. Nobody wants to keep that dude. So if they do buy Gearbox, and you know something, maybe Borderlands hasn't hit for anyone in a long time. Like maybe because it hasn't hit for me. Like I was diehard Borderlands 1 and 2. Like I would put 1,000 hours into it. Loved it. And I played some of the last of 3. I didn't like it. I did not like it at all. But yeah, please continue.
I mean, but like you look at like Duke Nukem, like you could say what you want. There were certain, parts of the franchise that you loved, like the OG, Duke Nukem 3D, all that stuff. And then you had certain parts you're like, yeah, this is cringe. But at this point, it's like it was. I look back at it now, and it was old school humor that should be brought to the forefront at this point, because at the end of the day, it really shaped my mind as a human being when I played those games, because it came down to like what you were feeling at the time, and I was obviously young and I didn't understand, and also making fun of other games, which I mean, there's not a lot of games that have done that in recent history. You know what I'm saying? So you look at that and you're like, like Darksiders, like I've heard people talk about it, but it's like, dude, like that's OG, but also could use a new iteration. You know what I'm saying? Like there's a lot of IPs that sit dormant over there, and you've heard like, aspirations, and then nothing else is said. It's one of those things like, is it worth it? They can't. I mean, right now with the regulatory process and everything, they're not looking at buying the entire Embracer group. They could.
They could,
but
if
it
they
would
wanted
probably
to, but
be a pain in the butt. You know what I mean? Like
yeah.
they just got ABK. They're not looking at that. But you already have Crystal D in house with freaking Initiative, and then you have Idios doing what is very quiet, by the way, which I'm just like, what are they doing over there? You know what I mean? Like, and then you say, okay, we start there, and maybe there's a couple IPs that are part of other it's all under Embracer, so under other studios that haven't been touched, that they throw in there as a back end, and they say, okay, we own Embracer, the West Division or something. You know what I mean? Like, because when Embracer bought THQ Nordic, that's where like a lot of these IPs I'm talking about came from.
Yes.
And that's where you go and say, okay, like that's kind of the West Division. Yes, it's in Canada and everything else, but it's still like, Western American division.
Yep.
You buy the Western division and you let them do whatever else they want, and maybe they sell the other half to Sony. I mean, I feel like Embracer was always developed to just sell, at the highest price possible. And right now with inflation and everything else, obviously you're going to get the highest price. So
yeah,
you know what I mean? It's definitely, we're at the point where they are figuring out whether, selling is more for the money of the investors and everybody else, and the people that have developed this entire Embracer group, or completing the processes that they haven't done in a while. They really haven't released much, and that's the problem. That's what it comes down to.
No, I mean, listen, you make a lot of fantastic points to it. It's the truth. They haven't done a lot. The last thing that they've done was Dead Island 2, which is going to be my top 10 of the year. If you didn't play Dead Island 2, my God, play it. It's amazing. It's one of my favorite games of the year. I had so much fun with that game. I did beat it. There's DLC supposedly dropping, hopefully soon, I think. I'm looking forward to that. Listen, before we bring in Web Dave, get his take on the potential of a Gearbox and Crystal D and Eidos and maybe even Tomb Raider joining. Let me catch up on the super chats. First of all, we have Munch in the chat. He drops a very generous $5 super chat, and he says, "What do you think about Microsoft making a comeback with the Windows Phone?" Well, I'll put it this way: I never owned a Windows Phone. Anyone that I have ever talked to who has said it was an amazing experience. It just didn't have the apps. As a matter of fact, if you listen to Satya Nadella, he said one of the worst decisions they made were to cancel the Windows Phone. So, I mean, could it make a comeback? I guess. I mean, that they basically are now shoulder to shoulder with Google and Apple when it comes to having IP for mobile, right? And if you and you know, obviously, we already know that there's 45 plus million people pre-registered for Call of Duty Warzone for something that's apparently dead, according to Game Rant, is waiting to play that game. And guess what? That game doesn't launch until spring of 24. I'm just saying. So they could make a run for it for sure. And then I would definitely get a Windows Phone because I'm a shill. That's just I'll get my shield check and I'll be fine with it. Let's see. John TJ says that pony took foreplay to a new level. Pause. And you know who I forgot to mention who did the same thing? Pony Master 420, aka the I was gonna say the Mooch because he sounds like him. I'm talking about Mag, our good friend from Canada, did a very similar skit, which I'm actually surprised he did it. He didn't do it first. I'm ashamed. That's all I'm going to say. Mag, that you had to follow somebody instead of doing it yourself. You biter. But yes, for Pony Master 420 doing the Lord's work when it comes to PlayStation representation. Didn't want to leave him out of the conversation. Oh, that actually rhymed. I didn't mean to do that. Dean Rivera drops a very generous $5 super chat and says, "I tried Hivebusters on xCloud streaming on my 15 Pro Max today during my break, and wow, what a flawless experience. Definitely going to be using that a lot more." That's pretty dope. And you know what, Hivebusters, man, a lot of people haven't played that. I wish they would continue to story those characters. Those characters were awesome. That was such a great, unexpected part of Gears. It was really phenomenal. Shame that we may not ever get a sequel, which is again a shame. Drawn TJ drops an additional $5 super chat and says, "Buy Gearbox, Crystal Dynamics, and Eidos before they buy WB." I mean, I'm right there with you. He's greedy. He's greedy like Infinite Umbra, greedy Umbra. He wants everything. El Monte drops a very generous $5 super chat and says, "I would like to see an X-Men game. It would be so would I. As a matter of fact, I would love for them to remake. You remember the top-down X-Men game that was like Marvel Alliance? It was what the hell was the name of that game? It was X-Men Evolution or something. It was a top-down game like Marvel's Ultimate Alliance 1 and 2, except it was X-Men. It was dope. I would love to see a remake of that. And that's probably going to drop into Game Pass next year because obviously now they own the license. I don't know if they own the license, but I know they own that game for sure. Bold Out. What is it?
X-Men Legends, right? Is that the one you're talking about?
Yeah. Yes. That's what it was. Absolutely, dude. That's dope. Thank you for the save. Drawn TJ drops an additional $5 super chat and says, "The creators of Saints Row got merged into Gearbox. Embracer owns Destroy All Humans. Bring both home." I mean, if there's going to be a fire sale there's going to be a lot of IP, and I think that Microsoft should just buy it all. I mean, they have the money. You need to continue to feed the monster that is Game Pass. And I don't mean fodder. Like other people will try to make you believe that it's all fodder. It's not fodder, folks. 2023 for Game Pass is on a level that's never been before. It has been crazy good. If you say otherwise, you are straight up lying or you just have never played or both. Let's see. We have Bold Alpha Wolfpack drops a very generous additional $5 super chat and says, Crystal Dynamics said a typical response on a survey they put out was around 2 to 3 responses. The Legacy of Kain survey got over 78,000 responses. Yeah, a lot of people would love to see Legacy of Kain return. Whether I don't think enough gamers today know about the IP. I mean, I know about it. I was there since it was a top-down, RPG. But I would love to see them maybe potentially remake the original Soul Reaver or Legacy of Kain. Like you remake those, put the development dollars. I'm not talking about it like an HD remaster. We don't want those. I'm saying remake the game. Resident Evil 2, Final Fantasy 7. Do it like that. Resident Evil 4. You do it like that, you're going to gain fans. We have Drawn TJ says Duke drops an additional $2 super chat, says Duke Nukem Doom Guy crossover. That would be kind of dope. Yeah, I would be down for something like that. I'd actually be down for a new old school Duke Nukem, like the old Duke Nukem. That would be kind of dope, but like a retro game, I would be down for that. And of course, we'll come back to the other two super chats in a second. Let's continue with this. Who is next? I lost my train of thought. Oh, so it would have been Web Dave. I'm sorry, Dave. Are you there, kind sir?
Yes, sir.
What are your thoughts on should Microsoft come to the rescue with Embracer? What do you think about that? You're our numbers guy.
Well, you look at the all right. So Embracer Group's intention, they had a plan with what they were doing. They had a really pretty sound plan in place, and then about 3 to 4 days before the final, I guess not merger, but where they were going to acquire a lot of funds from an investor from
Saudi Arabia, yes.
Saudi Arabia, whatever, that they backed out on them, and that left them absolutely high and dry. It left them stuck with their plan and pretty much in shambles because they couldn't get anybody else with that kind of capital to come in and to save the project. So unfortunately, that's kind of where they got themselves in a pickle and why they're having this quote unquote fire sale now. The Microsoft could and should definitely purchase whatever they can, and I'm sure there's probably some stuff in place. I would think, especially for the teams that are already working with Microsoft, that if those became available, as far as because Microsoft does not, I repeat, does not want to give themselves the noose that they hung themselves with when it came to Crackdown 3. And that was absolutely a nightmare. And so they know what they needed to do to get that in place. So even if they were, quote unquote, fire selling out to other people, they have I'm sure they're going to have some kind of contracts in place that'll prevent them from just pulling those and taking them from Microsoft. I cannot foresee that they would make that mistake again. Just not possible. So, but with your idea that some of the IPs and other things, it's definitely something they can do. I'm telling you, there's a lot of people that are like, there's certain caps and all this kind of stuff, but you can break those certain purchases down individually, and you can do that to where on this date you bought this one, on this date you buy this one, and so on and so forth, and as agreements fall in place. And it's so much different trying to buy a studio and franchises than it is trying to buy a publisher.
Yes,
and I do believe that they're definitely not done buying a publisher. At some point, hopefully next year, they're going to get quote unquote Japanese publisher that they need, Square Enix. But they're gonna probably end up picking. Oh, you can shake your head all you want to, there, Mr.
Sega.
No. Sega is in a place right now where they don't need to. They're not in trouble, dude. They're in a good place and have a really good relationship with Microsoft. So
I'm not. They're Nintendo status.
I just want Final Fantasy. I give zero craps about Final Fantasy on the system.
Oh, well, that's you, but that's just you. There's so many
yes,
other
and I'm
people that
selfish.
love that franchise.
So
Yeah. Well, that's. I'm sorry to hear that. It's a shame.
Let's get messy.
Anyway, there's also Kingdom Hearts. There's also the Dragon Quest. There's so many other amazing franchises that Square Enix has. But I digress. Let's go back to what we're talking about, and that is the Embracer Group and their properties. Drawn TJ is, I love his passion and excitement, and right there with you, buddy. They should buy everything that they could. What's the line from The Professional? Who do you want me to get? Everyone. So it's I want them all. Obviously, they can't quite do that, and to buy Embracer Group as a whole, I believe would be a mistake.
Yeah, of
But
course it would. Absolutely would be. Yeah.
to buy properties that wouldn't pull the rug out from underneath them, in other words, wouldn't leave them to where they wouldn't have any good games to continue to grow their company back once they had an influx of cash, would be a mistake. But the groups that they have on the table right now, they're already working with Microsoft. The Gearbox, which is clearly something that they've pushed out there that they're really wanting to sell and to get off their hands, that would be another good one. Obviously, like they did with Bobby Kotick, going to do with Bobby Kotick, because we know that he's only under contract until the end of the year, and he hasn't got any kind of
December
new
31st
promotion
is when it's over. Yep.
from Microsoft. So I wonder why that is. Well, it's because he's going to be gone and retire or whatever. That's good for him. But if there's any house cleaning to do, Microsoft knows what to do, knows how to do it, and they're one of the number one companies to work for a reason. They're why all these other unions and companies and gamers and divisions of gamers that were so excited about the purchase. Obviously, there's people that didn't like the idea of the ABK purchase, but that's because they knew it was going to hurt them or their quote unquote box of choice. But the absolute, I guess, the money that Microsoft has is plentiful, and they will definitely be able to manipulate this field and to get what they need to get. And they may have already actually made some of these purchases. Some of this could be an afterthought or just things they have to quote unquote save for the media until Microsoft is ready to make those announcements. So obviously Embracer's not shutting the store. Maybe it's because technically the deal's already done. There is no, they have nobody to talk to about it. They have no other, this isn't like a big disclosure that they have to have as far as any individual purchases as far as games and franchises and groups do not merit a board discussion to where you're going to have to reveal it to your shareholders. That can be kept private, secret, and for company purposes, not in their eye, unless it is we've got an offer to be bought. Those things have to go before a board. Those things have to be before the people that are shareholders. This kind of purchases do not.
No, not when they're the singular purchases for studios, which are under the threshold of, I don't know if it's 300 million or is it 100 million. I'm not sure exactly what the number is, but as again, they could go, okay, so today we're going to purchase Square Enix, Crystal Dynamics, and then the next week they're going to buy Eidos Montreal.
Good.
And they can have all these contracts lined up, and they're just different dates, so they're different transactions.
Correct. And not only that, but then they don't have to announce those as they happen. They can wait till like Phil did when he came out and says, one after another, boom, boom, we bought this. 5 different purchases he talked about. And who knows, maybe at the Game Awards, when everybody's all like, oh, Microsoft's a sad day, and Microsoft could drop the biggest bombshells in the world coming. I'm just saying, why not take that opportunity if you have some good things coming, some really big people are like, oh, they should pull out of the Game Awards. No, they should absolutely rub it in the face of everybody out there, because all the casuals will probably watch this.
Yeah.
And if they're smart, every single break should be a huge
Xbox game.
Yep. Well, the Xbox game and or Game Pass. Here's Game Pass, and here's what it is, and here it's only this much a month, and you get all this. Your kids will love it. Blah blah blah, and just you don't have to spend so much money on this. We've got this plus Game Pass. I mean, just absolutely destroy the narrative for everybody. It was like, oh crap, it's like, well, here's your $500 box, your $200 add-on controller portal. If you want to play VR, you got another $600 you got to spend. No, parents will love, especially with the economy now, Game Pass, and they absolutely need to drill it home. Sorry, I didn't mean to change.
Yeah, no, that's great. That's what we love about you, Dave. When we get into the numbers, is where you shine the most. Shout out to the Pews in the chat that goes out and says Xbox can't even handle their own in-house. I'm assuming that you are a Sony fan, and I just want to say to you, sir, have you been reading the bylines of all the layoffs at SIE? Jimmy Boy is gone. A lady that has produced 120 games was fired. Her whole staff walked off the job. Are we going to honestly say that Xbox can't handle their house when they have 12 first-party games coming out in the next 3 years? Outside of Wolverine, can you tell me what PlayStation has coming out?
And that probably won't be until 2024, boom.
Mic drop and walk away.
I'm just saying that I hear crickets, ladies and gentlemen, and the Pews. You're welcome here, brother. But please don't. If you're gonna bring it, bring some for real talk, not childish shenanigans. Because that's
some folks fail to acknowledge the facts if they don't fit their narratives, right?
Of course. You know, I mean, if the narrative doesn't fit, then we have to change the narrative to make it fit.
Yeah,
that's like,
seen it time and time again.
It's a shame. You've exposed yourself,
moving.
Pause. But you know, finally, now we're still gonna talk about the Xbox portal that is used mostly in the bathroom, thanks to Joe, Mr. Badbits.
But you mean the PlayStation portal?
The PlayStation portal. That's right. I'm sorry. Fuzzy Belvedere, let's get your hot take on the Embracer situation. I think it's already a done deal. I think Dave is really onto something. I think that these studios have been acquired already or in the process of doing so because they are currently working. And this is where we use the word, you PlayStation fans, organic, because they're working with Xbox on two major IP. So there's your organic talk for the day. What are your thoughts, man? I mean, is it do they stop at these two studios, or do they go and they pick up Gearbox and dump Mr. Magic, Randy Pitchford? Do they pick up some IP? Does Tomb Raider come home to Xbox?
I think there's a lot of different options in the middle of that. Like I've heard similar things to like what Dave has heard as far as the contracts that they've written since the issues they've had with Crackdown and the technology that was kind of taken or snatched from them at the last minute before the whole like cloud destruction stuff. Same thing with Killer Instinct when it came to Double Helix. And then Iron Galaxy went off and did.
They're another studio that's acquired already that we just don't know about yet, in my humble opinion.
But I'm hearing that in their contracts they have a right to bid. So let's say, for example, the doors are about to close. Before they do, because the contract is already in motion as far as them, renting them out, basically, they would have the option to buy. If another buyer was to come by, they have a right to have a bid automatically.
Counter offer.
Yeah, exactly. A counter offer. So that way they don't run into the situations that they've run into in the past. So they've gotten better with their contracts. Maybe not the contract worker situations they've had at other studios, but as far as contracts, when it comes to utilizing some of these teams, much like Certain Affinity, much like Asobo, although Asobo still wants to be independent and they have other, financial ties outside of where they're, registered now. But there's definitely a possibility I could see where Crystal Dynamic gets purchased. Maybe the IP gets the Tomb Raider IP gets purchased later, because right now it's being, I think, rented or used or licensed through Amazon.
By Amazon. Yes.
So maybe they don't have to buy it just yet to kind of keep that threshold below the 100 mil a day or something like that, or however long the time period would be for acquisitions and such. But I could totally see them picking up a couple of studios. I can also see them kind of filling in for where the Saudi investment was going to come in at, and invest in maybe not necessarily the same projects, but a lot of other projects that could help filter into Game Pass. Like if you look at Embracer Group's catalog, a lot of their products or a lot of their games have been in, Game Pass at numerous times, and same thing with even with PS Plus. So maybe Xbox just doing, or Microsoft doing some investment into the company, they get a better price break on getting things in the Game Pass, or
Yes.
have more of a right to have like a timed exclusive window for some of those IPs and things like that. Or maybe they license the IP or buy the license of the IP, or not even buy the license, but at least license it, get the rights to license it for like Tomb Raider, so they can have their own Uncharted type title. I mean, yes, we know that Indiana Jones is in the works. We know that ABK now has what they have Pitfall as a license, but maybe they want to have Tomb Raider for a limited time, or they want to have it as an exclusive, but only have the studio that they purchased recently, being Crystal Dynamics, let's say, be the ones that work on it, and then maybe acquire the license after the fact, just to kind of, one, not saying that they are in the business of helping out other businesses, but to make it so it's not as much doom and gloom in the gaming media space. You're helping out a publisher that's in trouble. You're also not being front and center as far as acquisitions out of the blue of another publisher. You're doing things piecemeal, and it may not be as a much of a target on their back type of situation when it comes to the gaming media at that point. Maybe there won't be as many hurt feelings or something to that effect. But I do think there is a window where Eidos Montreal and Crystal Dynamics are brought into Xbox first party. A couple other studios and IPs I could totally see being mixed in there as well. But I'm hoping, because a lot of people would say, Phil was always like the kumbaya guy, and we've seen how he is a shrewd businessman from some of the court documents. Like the whole thing with ABK, where it's like Bobby was hoping for 105 a share, and he came out, the counter offer was 80. And he was like, and Bobby was like, well, that's not what we wanted. So, and Phil was like, well, what do you want? Like at least 105, somewhere between 90 and 105. It was like 95. And all right, he basically cut it as low as he could and still keep the deal active type of thing. So maybe Phil is waiting for the fire sale initiative to, before he gets the checkbook out type of thing, because remember, I think it's something like, was it 7 billion that he can spend without having to get any hood involved? So
yes.
I'm pretty sure between him and Sarah, they're up there like trying to get the best deal possible, and also making sure that they can keep the talent at those studios, so they're not just not jumping out windows literally. But when you hear these financial troubles at a company, a lot of times, a lot of people, the first thing they're doing is redo or updating their resume, so they're not the last one out the door to shut off the lights type of thing. So they want to make sure that they time this at a point where the talent isn't leaving in droves. They can get the best price available, so they don't have to overspend, and they're also getting the best value, whether it be IP or additional studios, support studios, and etc. to go along with it. But I think there's stuff in the works. Like I said, I've heard things about their contracts have gotten better as far as to prevent similar past things from happening, to their contract work now. So we'll see how it goes. But I would say between now and actual Perfect Dark or Fable coming out, I'm pretty sure we'll hear something of acquisition of those studios that have worked on that. So we'll just have to patiently wait.
Yeah, I mean, listen, folks, look, we're almost at the 12 o'clock hour now. We are going to continue the conversation just in case some of the panel members have to bounce, because it is running a little late. I'm going to stay behind with maybe anyone that wants to kind of hang out, and we are going to tackle the PlayStation bathroom portal because I know that it's a big thing with a lot of people. I do have some quotes that look. I'll say this: it looks very interesting, but it is a device that doesn't make any sense. It's not being a bot, folks. Let's put the evidence on the table for you. This device will not work without a $550 investment, meaning that if you don't have a PlayStation 5, this handheld that you can take everywhere but nowhere at the same time does not work. Okay. So what do I mean? Well, you're streaming from your PlayStation 5. What's interesting and what was left out, and I learned this in a video that I watched on YouTube, is that one of the key features left out of the PlayStation Portal is a web browser. So if, like, say, for instance, you are, I don't know, at Hotel X for the weekend and you wanted to play and stream from your PS5, you could not, because you cannot get there's no web browser for you to get the Wi-Fi. ACG had a pretty stout review. We know that if you're too far away from your console, you get some stutters, which is like kind of crazy to me. This is again, it's not the most expensive device in the world. It's $200, but it's $200 that needs a $550 investment. The same way as the PlayStation VR 2.0, which is sitting. I'm waiting for the Dollar Tree notification, because when it gets there, I'm going to buy two, one to keep and one to sell. You can't use this device without a $550 investment, which is why it's DOA. And if you think I'm lying, is Sony talking about VR? No, they're not, because they have abandoned it, just like they did, and it was quicker this time. They abandoned PlayStation VR 1.0. I know, because I had it. I supported it. I had 31 games. They have already abandoned this device. And again, I saw a lot of people. The screen is gorgeous. It looks really good, but let's bring in what PlayStation is saying about this, folks. So I pulled the story from PlayStation Lifestyle, and it says this, folks. Please, again, this is one of those conversations. Make this make sense if you can, Silent Cypher. Speaking to a Japanese outlet, AV Watch, Senior Vice President of Platform Experience, Hideki Nishino, commented on the portal's use case and what the company hopes to achieve with the product. And this is what he had to say, folks. Rather than profitability, we want to increase the amount of time we can play with the PlayStation 5. If you can play anywhere, I think some people will definitely spend more time playing games. Well, you can't really play anywhere because there's no web browser. You can play in your house, but let's say, for instance, you have a really amazing OLED. Are you going to play on your small screen versus playing on the OLED? Like, I wouldn't. That's just me. So again, there's been a lot of things removed from this that were probably never a part of the conversation regarding the PlayStation Portal. I don't know why it exists. I think it is going to be abandoned very quickly. And if I were to take a stab at this, and I don't know if I'm right or wrong. I think that if it did have a web browser, you might be able to play Xbox Game Pass. So I would imagine that is probably why you don't have a web browser on this device. Let's get your hot take, Silent Cypher. Why does this device exist? And hearing that this wasn't made for profitability, I don't get that. Like that, are we in business school 101? Isn't the idea of releasing a product to make money, not just break even?
So, oh man, this is like an onion. There are a lot of layers to this one. But I will say a couple things right off the bat. So if it's not about profitability, maybe you should have released a more value price budget, like cost, right? If you're going to have it where it's not a profitability thing, then like this thing in general shouldn't exist because it just doesn't make any sense. It's a very limited case scope of who is going to use it. Like the use of this is going to be tailored to a very minimal group of people. I'm sure it's probably going to sell less than the PSVR 2 by leaps and bounds, I would imagine, which is already a low number and a very small group of people that play in that specific style, right? But there's a lot of things, there's a lot of questions on this one, right? Is like not having the web browser. like you said, that would open it up to actually being a more beneficial item to have, because then you could actually do some more things with it. You could pipe into Fortnite, you could pipe into Game Pass, you could do all sorts of stuff with it. It would suddenly be more worth that $200 price point. The thing I wonder with this, and you know, I'm gonna be a little bit of a salty a-hole here for a second, but for all you Sony fans that are diehards on this and that are, you know, willing to buck up that $200 for you, like, congrats. You know, Microsoft, you can play Game Pass stuff on your mobile phone that you already own. You can play it on your computer. You can play it anywhere that has a web browser. Sony got your back, man. That $200 is no big deal. It's like your loyalty fee, right? Like that's basically what it is, because this thing is literally like an honorary badge of PlayStation fandom. It doesn't have much of an actual use case scenario. So good for you. You know, $200, well spent. I'm sure that was worth it. But I don't see how people are coming to bat and being like, oh, this is amazing. Like, the screen is good. Yes, I will give it that. But again, I think their focus on this thing, they made the screen better, but then they removed functionality and cost in other areas where they really should have had it. Because the fact that you can only play this at home, I mean, Jesus, if this is the case and you have to pay $550 for a PlayStation, but then you have to pay $200 for this thing, why don't you get a ROG Ally where you can play the PlayStation games that are on PC in the best place to play them instead of on your PlayStation, and you can play Xbox stuff, Steam, EA's streaming, Ubisoft. Like, why not? If you're going to be paying $700, $750, just get a ROG Ally, because then you can actually play it everywhere instead of playing on your toilet or on your couch 10 feet away from your system. Like, latency in house is a problem. And if you can't carry this thing out with you or connect Wi-Fi from a different location, what the hell are we doing? Really? Like, you can't sugarcoat and polish a turd and sell it to me like this and act like it's a good thing. I'm sorry.
According
Like,
to IGN, kind sir, who gave the ROG Ally an 8, and they gave this an 8. I'm going to read the review for you folks live on the air from my phone. And it says this, folks: for now, it's a great device that represents the best current solution for PlayStation Remote Play. Save for a few baffling caveats, I call this a must-own device for every PlayStation 5 owner who enjoys playing games on handheld or has to compete for their household TV. That is verbatim from IGN. I am just saying, so if you don't,
where's their must-have for the Xbox Elite controller? Because I'll tell you right now, it still leaps and bounds above any competition that it has. And we're talking about
you won't get that
here.
because
you're not going to see that.
No.
But no, again, $200 for this, when you can literally play most things on your mobile phone from other services. Like, Sony did you that favor. You can do the same thing that the competition can do if you pay $200 more. Like, this isn't a value. Quit coping, quit simping over, quit pretending like it's a good thing. Like, I get if you enjoy
triggered a lot of people in the chat.
That's fine. They can suck it up, and if they want to spend their money
chicken
there,
wings
that's
is bent out of his chicken wing is bent out of shape. He's like,
if
very
they want to spend that $200 to be able to do something that we've been able to do for years for free, that's fine. That's their problem. You spend the money wherever you want to do it. You're an adult. You do your thing. But that being said, if you want to be a responsible adult with your finances and actually get value, there are other systems that do it better and cheaper.
Yep. No, it's true.
Sorry.
It is absolutely true. Crispy Bomb, let's talk about the PlayStation Portal. It's in its wording of what the actual device is. It's a handheld. You would imagine like a Switch or a ROG Ally, or of course the Steam Deck, which just had their new OLED one release for pre-order. You take your gaming on the go and you enjoy that gaming on a plane, on a train, or on a vacation, wherever you want to continue your game, you can play that. This is not, in fact, the case. This is the best case scenario is that, say, for instance, you're watching something with the missus and she's watching a show and you want to continue playing God of War. You can do that. And it looks amazing. I mean, the screen is phenomenal. Let's call a spade a spade. I don't know how it feels because I don't own one. So I'm only talking about what the reviews that I have seen, ACG being one of the big ones that I watched. To me, it doesn't make any sense to exist when its only set use is in your home. And in your home, if someone were to hand you this device, here you go, Crispy Bomb, welcome to the PlayStation family, but I have a PS4. You're now been removed from the family. You have not, you're not worthy because you don't have a PS5. It would basically be a paperweight if you don't have a PlayStation 5. So ultimately, this is a near $800 device because you have to have one to work with the other. And even if you have already PlayStation 5, which I have, and a lot of people on the panel already have, I barely play my PS5. It's only for exclusives, which I'm enjoying Spider-Man, but I wouldn't want to play on a small screen. That's just me. What are your takes on this?
But boom, haptic feedback.
I mean,
this is the problem I have. Well, it's a thing, and for a multiplayer gamer, I can care less. I don't want it. I think most multiplayer gamers that play on Xbox, I don't want haptic feedback. It just doesn't make sense. It doesn't do anything for me. And you brought up the Rogue Ally, you brought up the Steam Deck, you brought up all these things, and all I hear from the PlayStation stands is that, well, this is an accessory. What is it doing for you? Nothing. You've already experienced it. Y'all talk about Xbox so much. We've been doing this for a while, my friend. Like we've been taking games wherever we want on whatever thing that we have in our hands at that point in time. Like we've been doing this for a while. And like dropping a D on the toilet and playing a game, that's not my jam. I'm just saying. Like I play games. I actually play games. When I play a game tenfold. I get enveloped. Y'all know you can call me an Xbot. That's fine. No, you can call me a Gears bot. Okay? But by all means, I can play Gears anywhere. I played it on my phone. I played it wherever the hell I want. And I've been doing this for a while, by the way. And I go and say, y'all ain't telling me nothing. All you're telling me is that, I get to continue my single player story on a device that is not worthy of $200. It's not. I'm sorry. I mean, it just doesn't make sense. I don't understand how you think. Like, the screen on my iPhone 11 looks as good as what I've seen. Yeah, it's bigger. Big deal. It looks cheap. It looks unworthy of a purchase. I mean, VR2, $500+. I mean, everybody's like, it's an accessory. No, it's not. It's something to get you to buy. That's what the company is there for, to get you to buy that product. They have sold you on it. And you can sit here all day and say, oh, this is the greatest thing in the world. And I laugh at you because we play these games all the time. I've seen MetaQuest do far better things than what a VR2 could do. I've seen the Rogue Ally and all these other things do better, mobile aspect experiences within the ecosystem that they're allowed to do. These companies choose a certain aspect. Sony needs to say, okay, if we have a great product, can we release it like with no tethers? You don't have to have a PlayStation 5. Can we do that? I don't think they can. They haven't proven it. What did I say before, Boom? I said the PlayStation VR 2 should be able to be used on PC. Still haven't seen that yet. Anybody say anything about that? I follow many people. I follow all these people. Like I saw the other, just yesterday, somebody touting something that looks like an Ace Combat / flight sim thing that's for VR, and I'm laughing because I'm like, yeah, I mean, basically you're trying to be flight sim at this point, and it's going to be on PSVR 2. Big deal. I've seen people play. The remote play has already been there. It's been on your cell phone. I mean, is there a big difference in the screen quality? It might be smaller.
Well, it depends on what phone you actually have, but yes,
at the end of the
you're
day,
correct.
Yeah, I've seen people do this in front of my eyes, and I'm like, oh, this is cool. This is actually not bad. But you're waiting in the queue and you're doing a bunch of stupid things. This is stuff that we don't deal with on Xbox. And I think these PlayStation gamers need to realize that we just don't deal with it. We just go play the game. These PC gamers, like, you got to download drivers and all this stuff. We don't deal with that. We just go play the game. That's the point. That's something that I look at PlayStation and I say, dude, like, if you really want to sell this accessory, as you call it, because, your fanboys are calling it that, well, why not release it to the masses, not just your own single peripheral? You have to have a PlayStation 5 to play this. That is ridiculous.
Yeah,
at this point.
You are. That's a fantastic point, because what it ultimately does is it pigeonholes them into a slate of spy. Okay, he's playing that right now. I gotta check that out. I gotta check that
free. I didn't pay $200 for my Sony badge.
Yeah, there you go.
I can play it right here.
Yeah. I will say, and you know what? Let's go to Web Dave, because he actually owns it. He has the device in his hand right now. Okay, so John Wolf, who's in the chat, took a picture of him in the bathroom flushing down $200 down the thing. John, I know you're slanderous. We love you, John. What are your takes so far in actual real world usage?
I like it. I mean, it is for me, because a lot of times my wife will watch on our big screen, and instead of having to move my system to another room to play, I can just play this. And I did it last night, played it in the recliner, plugged in a set of headphones to it, because I'm not paying the extra ridiculous amount for a exclusive Bluetooth Sony only brand.
That's one thing. That's one thing else that was also you cannot.
And
use
I heard
any other
it has good audio, and that's just release it.
And Joey, no, I'm not poor. Thanks for asking, though. So, all right. So I have used this a lot in the last day. I even took it to Starbucks, and at Starbucks, to get online with this, you have to log in using accept their terms of service, as it were, when you're at Starbucks on a browser. This does not have browser or browser capabilities. You cannot use any media on this. You cannot watch any movies or anything else on this. This is strictly for games.
What about downloading games on there, Dave?
You can download games to your system, your PlayStation 5, from this, and basically it's just playing them off that. You cannot download anything to this. There is no memory card. There is no onboard memory for storage on this device. This is strictly for just playing at home. Now, if you want to play, there are workarounds, and there are people out there. Put up a really good workaround, but it's complicated. Basically, say like if I went to Starbucks with my laptop and I
You
open up a
connected via
browser,
that.
and,
Okay.
and then I actually had to change the browser on the laptop to be the PlayStation protocol, then it would find it, and then after it finds it, then you switch back to whatever the local internet is after
So
you've done the
basically, you have to
approval.
bring
So,
you have to bring
yeah,
a backpack.
exactly.
You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
You know,
Yeah,
for some
10
reason,
pounds of
Death
hardware.
Stranding is popping into my mind. Have you carrying this all this stuff?
now let me
Yeah.
so just to jump on this part. So if you have like a phone that has a Wi-Fi hotspot, like I do, I have a T-Mobile, then yes, you can use that and jump right on with that with no extra bells or whistles or anything to do, and you can play that anyway. But you still are going through your phone's network, through your home Wi-Fi to play a game, which can be laggy. Now, I don't have any
Yeah.
lag problems because my router is literally 5 feet away from me right now. Okay. So I'm not, look, this is not for everybody. Clearly, it is not, and it's probably not for most people. And people on here that have already said, well, you can't, you guys need to shut up about it because it's already sold out. Well, it's sold out because they have a number available at launch. So that's why it's sold out.
It's sold out because a
And
bunch of
lot those-
scalpers.
Exactly. A lot of scalpers bought them
Yeah.
and are trying to resell them. Now, Sony supposedly is going to be putting more of these out before the holidays. We'll see. I don't really care. I've got mine. It works for me, and it's strictly why I'm using it. I'm not here to say it's the greatest thing since sliced bread because it's not. It serves my purpose for what I like to do. Now, John Wolf will tell you when I first started whole thing was I wanted to be able to play my PlayStation 5 remotely. And the phone thing doesn't really work that well for me because I wanted to use, this controller with the games I was playing. So that was why, I did it was to use this. It has the controller already built in. When I used the Logitech G, I had connection issues. Some people did, some people didn't. I could never get mine to connect. I have the ROG Ally sitting right here, so I do have money. And so with the ROG Ally, I was able to connect to the PlayStation, but I still had to have the PlayStation controller assigned to the ROG Ally. I couldn't use the ROG Ally controllers built in because the network doesn't recognize any other controller but a PlayStation based controller when you go in to use the Portal software on a phone or whatever else. Now you can, if you use a phone and you use the touchscreen functions, it works just fine. If you want to use a controller, the controller you have to use has to be a PlayStation programming. And if you think I'm wrong, try it yourself because I've tried everything. So I'm just saying,
I want to thank
Go
you,
ahead.
sir, for literally proving my point.
Yeah,
We boot up the game, we play it.
Yeah, and to me, like I said, it works for me because I have a library of games that I occasionally like to play. Ghost of Tsushima, that's my favorite game. That's the one I play the most. So it's probably, there you go. And people don't think I don't play. Then all you got to do is go WebDave is my gamer tag everywhere, all platforms. You can look me up. So have at it. But anyway, that's basically my point is that, is it for everybody? Hell no.
No.
This is definitely not. And if I didn't have the let's say available resources, I probably wouldn't have bought one because I wouldn't have been able to. Okay. So, and to the pews, you just need to make sure that you are let's see, watch what you say as far as when you say it, because Boom and Boss Mod don't allow any slander or anybody calling any names. So if you're talking stupid, they will ban you. So
Yeah,
thank you.
simply put, and I think I can speak for everyone here. You don't know my financial situation, so sit down and mind your
Exactly.
business on it, because it doesn't matter what I make. It doesn't
Right.
matter if I make more than you or less than you. All that matters is if I want to buy it, if I think it's a value, I'll buy it.
You know what? I'm just going to tell Lethal, take care of business, brother. That's all I'm going to say, because when now we're getting ridiculous. First of all, pews. Are you 10, maybe 12, maybe 15 years old? Because that's what a 15-year-old would bring to the conversation. Instead of trying to have a conversation, you want to talk about people's finances. Do you have a family, a mortgage, maybe even a car payment? Does your mom pay your insurance for your car? I don't know. But you know what? To suggest that other people don't have these things is crossing a line, and you now are officially banned.
We prioritize. That's what that mother
Yes.
trucker needs to know.
uh,
We
that's fine.
prioritize what
This
is
is a
valuable
child trying
to
to have a
us.
manly talk, and obviously, Crispy Bomb, we have learned that the 15-year-old known as the Pews is now banned for good. So have a nice life, brother. Come back as somebody else and try that, and you'll get banned again. Yeah, I don't like that kind of talk. You don't know anybody's finances, and to suggest that you do is just showing your ignorance. And it's embarrassing. You should be ashamed of yourself, actually. But last and no way least, Fuzzy Belvedere, let's talk about the PlayStation potty portal, which is a lot of people are going to use it for. And you know, listen, if you bought it, good on you. I know that John said he did use it in the bathroom, and he did have a good connection, so good on John for that. I just think that this comes in a year for Sony where, if you're wondering if they're burning from inside, this is another example of that. Why do I say that? Well, they released the PlayStation VR 2.0, and it's literally sitting on shelves everywhere. They have already abandoned it. They just have not said anything about it. In the same year with hardware, they have released slim models, one of which is held up by a 5-cent paperclip that they are charging you $50 more for the cheaper version, but somehow they want to rake you over the coals. Then they want to sell you a $30 stand to stand your PlayStation 5 erect, pause. And of course, then they bring out this thing. This is why Jim Ryan is fired, folks. This is why major changes are coming to PlayStation and why they're in a tailspin. And it's all there for you to see. Sony is not, they have been defanged, folks. They're not the same PlayStation that they once were. They're a quote from Coach Green. They're not who we thought they were. Let's get your hot take on this, Fuzzy.
I would have been one of those that would have purchased it if I saw the value in it for me. I was hoping that they would have gone with this being a $400 item where it had an internal storage and could natively play PS4 games. Had it where you could do the cloud streaming as far as the PS Plus stuff, which could eventually come to it. But for me, it didn't make sense with me already having a Steam Deck. The thing that would make more sense to me if I were Sony is to make a direct app for things like the ROG Ally, for things like the Steam Deck, where you can use the controls of that hardware for their games that you're either streaming from your PS5 or that the games that you bought as far as the Steam library or from Epic Store or whatever on there. To me, that would have made more sense. Or for them to make something more in line with those where you have games you could play directly. Like I would imagine having something like this that could play an actual PS5 game natively would probably be 600 plus at that point. There would be no cost cutting as far as the pricing compared to like the standard console. It'd probably wind up being much more, and I don't think that would go over very well in as a whole. I mean, there would be people that would probably gravitate to it, like, oh, I don't need the regular PS5. I can get this portable instead. But all of that being said, this wasn't something for me in its form that they've announced. Like, I didn't know that you had to use what do you call them? The PS5 controller with like a ROG Ally or even the Steam Deck. Like I've been hesitant to use Chiaki, which is the software that you can kind of hack into the PS network. And that's the main reason why. It's like because it's a hack into the network and your information is part of that hack. I don't really feel comfortable in doing that considering Sony's security in general. So if they came up with a native app, it would be a little bit more of a warm and fuzzy feeling doing that. But
hey, Fuzzy, Just to say one thing. Now
Yeah.
on the Rogue Ally, you can use the touch screen with no
Mhm.
problems. But if you have the controllers there, using
Yeah.
the touch screen doesn't make much sense to me. It didn't to me anyway. I didn't
Right.
enjoy that purpose. But go on, sir. Sorry.
No, that's fine. I would prefer to use like the thumbsticks and the touchpads on like the Steam Deck. If I'll see if that's even a possibility, because I know at least with Steam's UI you can kind of make things work, but if you're running it through the PlayStation, the Steam UI stuff goes kind of out the window at that point. But to me, Sony is making, I wouldn't say necessarily bad decisions, but like what seem like not fully fleshed out decisions. Like
Questionable
this
decisions.
yeah, like this would be a good product in general for particular use cases, but is that really worth bringing to market, or is it better to, I mean, in my opinion, and this is just my opinion, it would have been better to kind of go backwards to what they were doing initially with remote play, build a bigger Xperia phone that has the almost like a dual sense built in or dual sense type of attachments to it, have the same type screen that's where it's almost like a tablet phone, and do that. And yeah, I know the Xperia phones are 900 plus or whatever. They have awesome cameras that will rival what you see in an iPhone. And to me, that would have made more sense. Yeah, it's much more expensive. Yeah, it's much more niche case, but I think that would have been a more useful tool, because at that point you have storage for, games that you can get in the Google store, or games that you could actually, put on a SD card or something to that effect. But for me, this wasn't a go-to item, just because it was as basic as it could be. And I do that with my phone, but I would rather have uh, like like what Dave said, I rather not be using my phone. I'd rather use like an 8-inch screen, or like the screen on my Steam Deck or ROG Ally, as far as having that screen size. But at some point, Sony's got to cave in and do an app for those devices, so you can use the built-in controls of those devices. To me, that would make more sense, especially if they're pushing towards PC and making it where whole slate, a lot of their games are going to be coming to PC. Like we can expect The Last of Us 2 coming to PC here soon. So their remake or remaster or whatever within the next year will probably be available at Steam. Why not have it where you have a Steam Deck app, or like a ROG Ally app or something to that effect? And the whole browser thing, just for uh, shits and giggles, let's just say, I've been hacking my PS5 as far as the browser is concerned. You can have a web browser on this device and still not have it compatible with Game Pass. Like the browser that's built into the PS5 now, I found workarounds to be able to get, the Game Pass site to show up, or as far as in the browser. The problem is, once you log in, whatever, support stuff that you need on the back end is not in that browser that's built into the PS5. So they could have put a browser on this to, eliminate that issue where it comes to going to like a hotel where you have that, accept the acceptance page or whatever, or their terms of service stuff. The same thing with that, like a Starbucks. Like, if you're having to use your phone as a hotspot, why not just use the phone as your remote play device? I mean, I can get why, yeah, this would probably be a better, device in the hand, but I'd rather not use my phone as a hotspot if I'm going to a place that uses Wi-Fi. I'd rather not have to bring my laptop, because then I could just do the remote play from the laptop. Like, that's where things don't make sense. They could have put a browser on here to, avoid the issue where, if this is going to really be a thing where, okay, my PS5 is wired to like via Ethernet, and I pay extra at certain hotels to have the better Wi-Fi signal, I should be able to have a somewhat decent experience, not maybe in multiplayer, but at least for a single player game, I should have a somewhat decent experience. But if I can't even accept their terms, then I'm kind of dead in the water. And I don't feel like doing the extra effort if I gave them $200 for something that should work right out of the box. So I don't know, a few missteps, maybe updates will, fix a few of the omissions and things like that from this device, like the streaming for a PS Plus. But right now, it's a no for me, and I would encourage any PlayStation fan that it's on the fence on getting this item to even encourage PlayStation to do an app for like the ROG Ally, so that way it's native on the device. or an app for the Steam Deck that's native on the device, or
That
the
makes sense.
Mio, or any of those PC handhelds. That to me makes more sense for Sony moving forward. This
Yeah.
device, it could have cooked in the oven a little bit longer and made sure that they didn't forget a browser and didn't forget, other things in there that makes sense at launch. So that's just my take on it.
You know what, Fuzzy? I started Boone to cut you
That's
off,
right.
but if they did have a browser on here, I believe that Sony would be afraid that there would be some kind of hack or workaround, and the
Yeah.
last thing they want to see is people
There's Game Pass
touting
on there. Yeah.
exactly Game Pass on this device. That would absolutely would make them just go in
It'd be
rage.
so funny.
But
It'd be
it's
so
but I'm
funny.
telling you, at some point,
Oh, I thought they were
going to
watch Pornhub.
There's already people
Maybe.
taking these apart.
Yeah, apparently
I guarantee you,
that is
there's
a
going to be
thing,
some
but-
kind of hack
could.
or some kind of something that they're going to do to this in the future.
Yeah.
That they will that you will see one of these with Game Pass on it, and it's going to be funny as hell when that happens.
When someone does do that, that is going to be funny. Real quick, let me catch up on the super chats. I'm going to get everyone out of here. Dreadful Sean drops a generous $5 super chat and says, Embracer owns THQ, which is currently working on the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Last Ronin, based on the iconic comic. I'm hoping it doesn't get canned. Yeah, dude, the Ronin, I have the book. It's pretty dope. Hopefully that does not get canceled.
That's a
Jerron
good
TJ,
one.
Yeah, Jerron TJ says pick up Bugbear. They make Wreckfest. Let them make Blur. But yeah, I'd like to see Blur come back. I'd like to
That'd
see
be
Project Gotham come back. To be honest with you, that would be kind of dope. God Emperor Sofa King, who's been a channel member for 7 months, says Microsoft would just have to drop a premium amount of $4 billion to buy Embracer, which is the same amount that Bungie was they should have no issue. Yeah, I mean, it's true. It'd be $4 billion, but I don't know if they want to. They have a lot of personnel, man. They have a lot of staff. I think they have to go in there and handpick what they want, and there's a lot to get into.
And think about this with that too, right? Is if you went in and you just picked up Embracer straight out, you're going to run into the same situation they just did with ABK, where you're going to have way more criticism and like scrutiny. Yeah. Whereas if you piecemeal it and you pick them off here and there, you're not going to get that. So
No.
that's the benefit to piecemealing that purchase.
Yeah, I think that's the best way to do it. Yeah, less scrutiny, less than if you don't have to have FTC or CMA or EU watchdogs, looking at every purchase, and you can get in there and you get under the. I think someone actually Highlander put it in there. So Highlander, thank you for the info. He drops a $2 super chat and says the acquisition over 95 million gets looked at. So if they could pick up these studios for under 95 million. Then they could figure out a way to do that without having to report to anyone and then doing like a big content drop. Like, hey, listen, folks, we just acquired these 5 studios, boom, 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 like they did in E3 2018. Lieutenant Hulk drops a very generous $2 super chat and says, boom, you should do call-ins, the listeners, so the listeners can chime in. I don't use OBS. I know if you do use OBS, you probably could figure that out. I couldn't because I'm not that technical. I use StreamYards, but they're consistently upgrading StreamYards on a regular basis. So if they ever offered call-ins, I would take the chance to see how dangerous that line would be to walk, because I could only imagine some of the stuff that would be said. But yes, thank you for the for the information. But we'll try. If it's ever offered through the software that I pay for, then I would definitely try it. Jonas the Dad drops a very generous $2 super chat and says they can't put Wi-Fi on it. If you could run Game Pass, and that is true. That's why they won't do it. Oh, John Wolf is in the chat, Mr. Potty himself. He drops a $5 super chat and says, me and Web Dave contributed to the Jim Ryan Retirement Fund with the portal. Enjoy your weekend.
We appreciate your sacrifices.
We salute you, sir, as you walk off the plank. Congratulations. There you go. Listen, let's get to outros. We went 35 minutes longer than we normally do. Pause. But we had some fun. Listen, folks, there are a lot of people who got really, really bent out of shape with the whole portal thing. This is not console warring. We're just having some fun. We're poking fun at it. I mean, have some fun. It's okay to laugh. It's okay to poke fun at Sony when they do dumb things. When Xbox does, right? Don't we all as a community get out there and let Xbox know that they did the wrong thing, that that we have a problem with what they did, right? We do that, and we get cheered on for it. But the minute we say something about PlayStation when they do dumb things, it's like, oh, you guys are console war, maggots. Come on. Let's be for real. With that said, folks, Silent Cypher, by all means, brother, sell the brand of Xbox International Podcast, and more importantly, where can people find you on social media?
Oh man. Well, you can find me in a lot of places coming up pretty soon. This is an exciting time. So obviously you can catch me on Wednesdays at Xbox International at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time with my brothers Crazy Louie, Sour Blow, and the Plume, the Big Plume. Catch me there, catch me on social media all over the place, but I do have some other things coming up. So I will be hanging out with Ham Solo, Loke, Cozy, Matt Likes Games later on today on Bull Sittin' on the TSWS channel. So make sure you swing by there. I want to say it's 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time start for that today. And then next Friday, we've got a really cool one. So myself and Infinite Umbra as well are going to be part of a cast doing a Halo 2 script read for a live stream charity for Game On Cure Cancer, if I remember correctly, the tag.
That's
specific.
awesome.
So it's a really cool opportunity, and it's a really good cause. So I'm super stoked that we'll be doing it. Excited to, even being included in it. Seems like we got some really cool people lined up, so I can't wait.
The cast is pretty cool, dude. Like, it's really got some really cool people on that cast.
Yeah. So you'll catch us on that one. It's going to be on Black Friday. It's going to be, I think it's 7 p.m. my time. So you just keep an eye on Twitter. I'll be posting more as we get closer to it. I'll have links in there. But make sure you stop by if you can. If you can't donate anything, that's no big deal. Like, just come hang out, enjoy it. I think it's going to be a really cool experience, and I look forward to people doing more of this type of stuff in the future. I think it's a really cool opportunity to get some more people involved in voice acting.
Yeah, absolutely.
But as always, thank you for having me this week, guys. Fuzzy, Dave, Crispy, Boom, thank you for tolerating my shenanigans. Chat,
we love
sorry if some of my opinions chafed you a little bit where your Sony buttons are, but I hope you have a great weekend, and I appreciate you tolerating my shenanigans.
It was fun. We had fun today. It was a lot of fun to just make some silly fun over what's transpiring. Crispy Bomb, sell your brand, brother. Where could people find you on social media, and what else you got going on besides cutting turkeys?
Well, I'll tell you something right now. Silent Cypher just said, "Get some lotion, my friends." That's what he said. Put some lotion on. It's getting cold outside. The air's drier. And that's all he's saying.
It's lotion on its skin.
Hey, it took me a lot of years to figure out what lotion actually does for you. I'm just saying. Chris Bob on Twitter, Chris Bob 28, Xbox Live. You can find me on Breakfast with Boom Fridays 10 a.m. And that is all. I am a BoomStick exclusive. You might find me on other shows. You never know.
You just never know. Well, listen, brother, enjoy your weekend doing whatever. Obviously, I don't know who the Chiefs has this week. Hopefully, you'll win.
Listen, Monday night football, baby. Eagles versus Chiefs, Super Bowl rematch. Oh yeah,
that's a good one. Yes, that's going to be an excellent one. Let's see. Web Dave, sell your brand, brother, because not only do you have one of the best one-on-one shows on YouTube, you have a show coming up this Sunday with Retri on the Gamers Council podcast. Talk about it. Where can people check that out and subscribe to your YouTube channel?
Thanks, buddy. This Sunday we do have the Mag and the
Ooh.
Wandering Dutch will both be
Oh,
our
what a
guests
combination.
on.
Yes,
And
primetime gaming brothers, and one may be wearing a unicorn horn. Hopefully, it's in the right place.
Hopefully he's
sometimes
wearing other clothes this time. Jesus.
sometimes he's horny, and then of
Ah,
course he has his OnlyFans page. But yeah, we're actually gonna have a little fun with that too. He doesn't know it yet, but he will. Yeah, no, thank you so much, Boom, for having me on. Sorry for a little long-winded and a little intense today. Sometimes you just have those kind of days where it's like, you know what, I'm not gonna take any shit. Let's just tell it like it is, and there you
nothing
go.
wrong with
So.
that.
But yeah, no, man, Boom, you have absolutely the number one podcast day after day, and we appreciate you
sir.
being here and love everything you do. And please, everybody, hit the like button, subscribe to this channel. Whether you agree or disagree, it's all about gaming, all about fun, and Boom has both. So enjoy.
Thank you, sir. Very kind of you to say. And last and no way least, the best place for anything and everything in the racing genre. And that would, of course, be Fuzzy Belvedere's YouTube channel that we are attempting to get to 1K, folks. Please, if you like the work that we do here, you're going to love the work that he does there. Please get over there, subscribe to his YouTube channel. And Fuzzy, how could people do that? And more importantly, where can people find you on social media?
Well, just want to start off by thanking you for having me on. Always awesome being on here with you guys. Always awesome when we have Silent Cipher as well. Love the shenanigans. It's it's part of the gaming space, and we gotta talk crap to each other sometimes, and sometimes poke some fun, and sometimes get serious about stuff. But in the grand scheme of things, this is all about the hobby we all love. So it's always awesome being on here with you guys. Always loving interacting with people in the chat. Thank you for taking the time to watch us. Please hit the like button and subscribe if you haven't already. For those that want to hear my rambles and rants on anything gaming, just follow me on the app formerly known as Twitter at Fuzzy_Belvedere. You can do a search for Fuzzy Belvedere on YouTube to find my channel as well. Also, if you want to hear other, rants and or rambles from me, I'll be on Xbox Ultimate later on tonight on Fun Speculations channel, 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Definitely show up. We go sideways sometimes, but it's always a good time. And then on Saturday, Shop Podcast, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We're going to go over our predictions on some of the outcomes they'll probably be for the Game Awards and some of the slanderous talk that we sometimes get into. And then Monday, look forward to being right back here for Xbox Lunch Break Special, 12 noon. Hope to see you there. Thanks again.
Yes. Thank you so much. And folks, I will give you the schedule next week. We are having shows Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. Obviously, there'll be no show on Thursday, which is Thanksgiving. I'm going to poll the community because a lot of people are not going to be available for Breakfast with Boom. So what I may do is a solo show that Black Friday, maybe do like an hour stream. We'll see. We'll see how it looks. I'll poll the audience and see what you guys and gals, if you would tune in on a Friday morning, the day after Thanksgiving. And if not, we'll just, we'll cut and run, and we'll, visit the show the following Friday as it normally is. We'll see what the community has to say. And of course, a big thank you to, my goodness, so many super chats came in. Thank you so much for the support. Of course, not only through the super chats, but of course through the channel members who consistently and monthly support the channel. And obviously they do a lot. We get new PCs. When we need new mics, lighting, everything. Plus we do the big giveaways. And of course there is one more big giveaway coming. And of course I'll have more information as we get closer to the holiday happening in December. And of course, I'm going to close out the show with something, folks, that's incredibly important to me. Hopefully one day will be important to you. And that's something that my dad taught us when we were kids. And say, Craig, treat others how you want to be treated. And also, it doesn't cost anything to be nice. You live by those rules, Craig, I can guarantee you're going to have an awesome day. So take care, everyone. And we'll see you next week on the newest episode of Breakfast with Boom.